All right, the Krug Show. We're back in our studio. NFC and AFC title game weekends are set. Unfortunately, it will not include the Niners. Let's talk a little Bears Rams. Let's talk a little Pats Texans. Let's talk a little Niners Seahawks. Let's talk right now. Off and running on the Krug Show on a Saturday. Back here in the Bay. Back from Seattle. We got a lot to get to. The offseason has arrived. Welcome to January 18th. 7/18 West Coast, 10/18 East Coast. Welcome to the Krug Show, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. The best barbecue in all of Northern California is Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. They're soon to open in 2026 in Petaluma, also up there in Marin County. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. And also thanks to Sleeper. All of the stuff we do is brought to you by our good friends at Sleeper. 49er football season is presented by Sleeper, the fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. It's a one-stop shop. You get blazing fast news, real-time stats, group chats, season-long leagues, and, of course, Sleeper picks for daily fantasy. Use promo code Larry, and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Links in the description. Terms and conditions do apply. All right. We're going to get into some thoughts on the 49ers, of course, before we get out of here, but let's get right to the game that just finished. The Rams got lucky, and they escaped Chicago with a 20-17 win. The Rams defense, McVay got so badly outcoached in this game. It was unbelievable. And they let the Bears hang around. The Rams are the better team. And yet, on a freezing cold day against the 28th rated run defense, they threw the ball all over the place. 42 pass attempts for Stafford, only 31 runs by the Rams, despite the fact that Kyron ran for over 4 yards a pop. They just refused to dominate the Bears, and they let them hang around. And then Caleb made an amazing play at the end, hooking up Cole Kmet. It's amazing. Caleb Williams plays so much better in the fourth quarter than he does in the first three quarters. He was 23 of 42 for 257, 2 touchdowns for Caleb. They didn't sack him one time. 3 picks, 3 interceptions for Caleb Williams. He also ran 5 times for 40 yards, so 8 yards a pop there. But yeah, the Rams could have dominated this game. The Rams should have dominated this game. The Rams are better than the Bears by quite a bit. But they just refused to run it. Huge game for Cam Curl. He had 13 tackles, including the game changing interception there at the end. He had a huge game. He's a free agent, Niner fans, if you want to go sign Cam Curl. Omar Spates had the big 4th down stop when Caleb was trying to go for the key 4th down late in the game. Spates got his hand on that ball. Nate Landman, phenomenal player at Colorado. What an addition by Les Snead. Great GM move there to bring in Nate Landman. He had 10 tackles. Their DBs, Cam Kinchin, Quentin Lake, had 7 tackles each. And the Rams get interceptions from Kobe Durant and Cam Curl. Cam Curl had 1, Kobe Durant had 2, and the Rams get out of Chicago, freezing cold Chicago, and now head to Seattle for the NFC Championship game. But if you look at that performance from the Rams, it was so bizarre that they didn't kick the Bears around more. I mean, it's just very strong. Insane play calling from McVay in the first half. He had 27 Stafford dropbacks, only 7 quarterback runs. In a game where the Rams were either led or it was tied for 29 of the 30 minutes in the first half, McVay, I don't know if he was shook or if if he's just a moron or what. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, you're on the road against a team that's 28th in the league against the run. They can't stop the run. You have Blake Corum, Kyron Williams. You could run it at him. No, you're gonna throw 27 dropbacks and 7 runs in the first half. So McVay's got a Super Bowl ring, but he's, I don't know what to say about him really. And then finally they got it going. They had a scoring drive where they had 8 runs, 6 dropbacks. They scored a touchdown, first touchdown since the first quarter. I mean, the Rams have the number 1 run offense in pro football. They're on the road in freezing conditions. With Stafford, who's got terrible numbers in anything under like 25 degrees. They're 28th in run defense. And you sit there and throw it all over the place. I mean, seriously, if the Rams had lost this game, McVay would have been, his horrible game plan would have been to blame. I mean, no adjustments, number 1 rushing attack, 28th rated run defense, 34 dropbacks, and 10 running back runs in the first 44 play calls in a game that they either led or were tied for 44 of the first 45 minutes of the game. And then, as I mentioned before on the Spates thing, Caleb threw incomplete to Luther Burden on 4th down. Spates broke it up. The Rams took over inside their own 5-yard line. The other thing was Caleb Williams. I know you want to make plays from the pocket, but you can run. You might as well. And he didn't run enough in this game. And then Chicago couldn't get it going on 4th down, 1 for 4 on 4th down conversions. LA's defense dominated the second half and made the key play in overtime, and the Rams are moving on. So I do think this sets up for Seattle to beat the Rams in Seattle next week. Seattle's rested. Seattle's gotten every advantage. Not only are they the 1 seed incredibly rested, they got the rest advantage against the Niners. Believe me, I'm not using that as an excuse. The rest would not have made a difference yesterday. The Niners did not lose that game because of rest. Do not think for a second that I'm saying that. But they did get an advantageous situation. And then Seattle plays on Saturday. They get the Rams on the road in Chicago on Sunday. So now for the NFC Championship game, the Rams are on a short week, have to travel back from Chicago, then have to get on the bird and go back up to Seattle. And Seattle, all the while, is hanging out at home, sleeping in their beds, training at their facility, just building more and more momentum. So I like them. I like the Patriots. I told you I like the Patriots against Houston today. And sure enough, they got the win. I thought the Bears had the magic carpet ride going, and I really believed it all the way till the very end. But the better teams were the Rams and the Seahawks this weekend, and the better teams won. And then the better teams in the AFC, were the Patriots and the Broncos, and the better teams won. The division round's an interesting round because there's wild card momentum and this and that, but the teams that get to sit at home and rest and, their rest in baseball can screw you. Rest in football is essential. The more rest, the better. These guys have been banging heads since July. And so any rest that they can get is big. So now it's the Pats in Denver against Jarrett Stidham. Love the Pats, and we'll talk about that game right now. And then it's, I think it's gonna be Pats Seahawks. Pats Seahawks in the Super Bowl at Levi's. And who knows? I mean, I kind of think the Patriots have a real good chance. I mean, they've got a really solid defense. They've got Drake May. They've got Vrabel, a really well-coached football team. They look good. I don't know about you, what you guys think, but I thought they looked really good. Let's talk a little bit about that game for a second. Houston on the road in Foxborough. Pats led 21-10 at halftime. And New England went 1 for 8 on 3rd downs on offense. They really didn't have it offensively against this awesome Texans defense, which I think is the best going, even as good as Seattle's defense is. I think Houston's is better. It's just Houston's got Stroud. He's a circus. They were terrible. They couldn't run the ball. But Houston had 4 interceptions in this game in the first half alone. And remember when people were like, CJ Stroud's better than Brock Purdy? Where the fuck are those people right now? Really? Really? CJ Stroud is better than Brock Purdy. Yeah, try that. Try that on for size. Houston, though, ran for only 8 yards in the first half on 12 carries, less than a yard a carry. Houston averaged 0.7 yards per carry in the first half of this game. We talk about Houston's defense all the time. We don't talk about New England's defense. New England's defense just never talk about it at all. New England's defense is good. And this game was turnover laden. There were 6 combined turnovers in the first half alone. Drake May had an interception. He fumbled 3 times, only lost 1 of the fumbles. He was very fortunate. And New England wins 28-16 to set up an AFC championship game in Denver against the Broncos, their backup quarterback. Drake May had 3 touchdown passes in the snow and rain. He threw 3 of them. Marcus Jones, who's one of the most underrated players in football, really good nickel corner and a very good special teamer. Jones returned 1 of CJ Stroud's 4 picks for a touchdown. You throw 4 picks, you're going to lose. So New England advances to the AFC Championship game for the first time in 7 years. The Pats, they're 16-3. They're going to take on the Broncos, who are 15-3 in Denver. As I said, Jarrett Stidham in for Bo Nix, who's got a broken bone. He won't be able to go. What a terrible break for Nix. What a terrible break for the Broncos. You get the AFC Championship game in your place, and you get a major injury. I'll call that the Sean Payton's a prick curse. For Sean Payton to call out the media, what do you know about it? Hey, Sean Payton, what do you know about anything other than fucking football? Probably nothing. I bet you if you talked about anything besides football, Sean Payton would absolutely know dick. But the one thing that he knew is football. And so some probably well-intentioned media guys like, hey, how are you guys going to run the ball downhill? What do you know about run the ball downhill? Sean Payton, what the fuck do you know about anything that isn't fucking football? I would shut the fuck up if I were Sean Payton, because what do you know other than fucking blocking and tackling? You're probably an illiterate fuck who doesn't know shit except for football. And that's what you know, football. And you're going to talk down to a media guy because he knows less football than you. The one thing you know, do you know religion? Do you know politics? Do you know anything? Do you know culture? You probably don't know anything. Does he know history? Does he know world history? Does he know war history? What does he know? But he knows football. And so he buffaloed and bullied some guy. It's just such a bad look. Hi, Broncos, bad karma, man. Never bring on bad karma this time of year. And he brought on bad karma, and now he's going to be in the biggest high-profile game that he's been in a long time with an arm tied behind his back, and he's going to lose the AFC Championship game on his home field to Mike Vrabel and the Patriots, partially because of karma. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So fuck Sean Payton. I don't really care about the media guy, but don't bully a bunch of people about the only fucking topic you know. You're not some Renaissance man. You're not Sir Thomas More. You're a fucking grunt football coach idiot. Okay? Just, you know football, and that's all the fuck you know. And you're going to talk down to some guy who probably is more well-read, more traveled, more cultured, more everything. It's just wrong. Just wrong. But that's what you get. A little bad karma for Sean Payton, and now he doesn't have his starting quarterback in the biggest game of his year, and he's going to go down in fucking flames, and it's going to be beautiful to watch. The Pats are winning next week, by the way. I like the Pats. I'm going to take the Pats. I like the Pats the whole way. They've won 15 of their last 16 games. And all this talk about Shanahan Coach of the Year, Shanahan doesn't deserve to be Coach of the Year. Come on. He does not deserve to be Coach of the Year. Niner fans, pull your heads out of your asses and get real. The Patriots were 3-14 last year. What are they now? Like 15-3? Come on. Vrabel is the Coach of the Year, without a doubt. not Shanahan, not Ben Johnson, not Dave Canales or anybody else. Mike Vrabel is the coach of the year. His team's playing great ball. And he's got a great young quarterback. I mean, look at the Pats. They had Tom Brady, and now they wind up with Drake May. And Drake May finished 16 of 27 for 179 yards. He had an interception. As I said, he fumbled 4 times. He lost 2 of the fumbles. But he's moving on. He's 2 wins away from winning a championship as a 23-year-old. Wouldn't that be something? Carlton Davis, the third, who was a great free agent pickup. He had 2 interceptions for the Pats. The former Cal Bear, Craig Woodson, added an interception. He also had a fumble recovery. What a great pickup that was. Woodson in their secondary has just been an absolute playmaker. He's a rookie out there playing like a veteran. There were 8 combined turnovers in this game. How bad was Woody Marks, by the way? Woody Marks lost a fumble for Houston. But those 8 turnovers were the most in a playoff game since 2015 when the Cardinals and Panthers combined for 8 in the NFC Championship game. So it was a lot of turnovers. The Texans are 13-6, but they've lost now in the divisional round 3 straight seasons under D'Amico, and they're 0-7 in the divisional round. So he's a great coach. They've got great personnel on defense, and Will Anderson is awesome, man. He forced 2 fumbles today for the Texans. So Pats are going back out on the road, but guess what? The Pats are great on the road. They're 8-0 on the road this season. So they're going to Denver and they're getting the win. I feel very confident in Seattle and New England. I feel more confident in New England than I do in Seattle because the Rams are pretty good and they're a division opponent, and they have some real battle royales. But everything favors Seattle here. I mean, their stadium, by the way, is awesome. What a stadium! That Lumen Field, phenomenal. I mean, it looks cool. It's loud as hell. The food in the media room was amazing. I mean, how clean it is, the area around the stadium. I mean, it's nice. That is a nice stadium. So they'll be at home again. The Seahawks at home against the Rams. I like the Seahawks. The Pats on the road against the Broncos. I like the Pats. And you know what? Nobody talks about New England's defense. And yet, for the 4th game in a row, New England's defense has held up their opponent to 17 points or less. So it's a really underrated defense. If you look at New England, if you say great defenses in the NFL, nobody would say New England. Nobody would say them. But they really do have a great defense. And it's a very, very strong unit across the board. What I love about their defense is their secondary. Their secondary is just... There's some really good players back there. Now, Christian Gonzalez was dicey whether he was going to go today because he's been nicked up. But look at the secondary they have right now. They've got, at right corner, you got Christian Gonzalez. At left corner, you got Carlton Davis. He had a couple picks today. He's a veteran. He's really solid. At strong safety, you got the rookie Craig Woodson, 4th-round pick out of Cal. He's a hell of a player. Jalen Hawkins is at free safety right now. You've got Marcus Jones as the nickel corner. He's a really good player. Small 5'8" corner, but I mean that's a really good group right there. On the second level, they brought in Spillane from the Raiders. He's had a really good year. They got Christian Ellis, Chase on the former Jaguar, I believe it is, on that second level. And up front, you got Harold Landry and Chase on off the edges. Not bad. And then you got Christian Barmore, who was a 2nd-round pick. You got Big Tonga in the middle, who's a space filler. They signed Milton Williams away from the Eagles, and he's really powerful, explosive. Harold Landry can give him some edge rush. They got the Cal Poly kid, Elijah Ponder. So they've got some decent players. Eric Gregory, I really liked in the draft. He's hurt now from Arkansas. But this is a good defense. And they're very, very solid. They're smart. They're really smart. The GM is Elliott Wolf. That's Ron Wolf's kid. And, that's a great combo. You got Vrabel and Elliott Wolf running the team. And you got McDaniels as the OC. Terrell Williams is the defensive coordinator. And they're a good team. They really are. They're just solid across the board. And then offensively, It's a young offense. Will Campbell's a rookie left tackle. Jared Wilson's a rookie left guard. So they're really young on the left side of their line. Morgan Moses is kind of a cast-off journeyman. He's been with Baltimore Jets. He's been around the block. He's their starting right tackle. May is solid. He can move a little bit. He's smart. He makes good decisions. He's a very good decision maker. He keeps his poise. He's got Hunter Henry at tight end with Austin Hooper. And then at receiver, they've got Diggs. I think Diggs to the Patriots has been one of the best pickups of the offseason. He has given them an element that they just did not have at wide receiver. They have Pop Douglas, and they got Keyshawn Butte, and the Kyle Williams, the rookie from Wazoo, is not bad, and the undrafted kid, Efton Chisholm III. They got some guys. It's Diggs. Diggs is the guy. And, he was been a great player since he was at Maryland. He was a great player in Minnesota. I think he kind of outlives his usefulness sometimes. And I think he's a pain in the ass to be around maybe. But you know what? He's been absolutely exactly what Vrabel has needed. And he's made some bad decisions off the field. And Vrabel's referencing. He's like, yeah, we just talked about making better decisions. So maybe don't be on a party boat with a bunch of strippers and drugs and that kind of thing. But other than that, Stephon, you're the man. They've got a couple different running backs they like to use. They've got Ramondre Stevenson, who is a big back, though he will put it on the carpet a little bit, and he will fumble. They have Travion Henderson, the rookie from Ohio State, and I think he got dinged up today. But he's a really electric player out of the backfield. Can catch the ball on those swing passes. They got a legit backup quarterback, good quarterback room. They picked up Tommy DeVito from the Giants. They brought Josh Dobbs in from the Niners, the Pastronaut. So it's a good quarterback room, and May is their franchise guy, and he's playing well, and he's going to win next week. So I like them a lot. I think they're going to the Super Bowl. They are an impressive team for sure. All right, let's get back to some thoughts on the 49ers, okay? Because I know that's real. We can talk about these other games, and we will, and we're glad we have the opportunity to talk about these other games. But we all know that you guys care about the Niner news. So let's get into some of the Niner news. First, on the coaching circle, the Ravens have completed their interview with Robert Saleh for their head coaching position. The Titans scheduled an in-person interview with Saleh for tomorrow afternoon, and he's a serious candidate there, according to Rap Sheet. Now, I think the favorite in Tennessee is, with Borgonzi, the general manager coming from Kansas City and having the Kansas City ties, it's probably Matt Nagy, who he knows well from Kansas City. And if he's worried about loyalty or anything like that, maybe he's going to hire the guy that he knows. But according to the reports, the final three candidates in Tennessee are Robert Saleh, Matt Nagy, and Jeff Hafley, the former Ohio State defensive backfield coach. He's a defensive coach. I think he's coaching with the Packers. But those are the three finalists. I think it's going to really come down to Saleh or Nagy, and I think it's going to go to Nagy. They have Cam Ward there. They want to surround him with an offensive coach that can help develop him. Nagy has got a really good resume as an offensive assistant, not as good as a head coach, but he does have the tie to Borgonzi from their days in Kansas City. Never sell that short. This is a league where guys hire their friends and their family. It's just really as simple as that. Look at all these hires, and you're going to find, why did Bob hire Sam? Well, they worked together at, Wake Forest. Why did Joe hire Steve? They worked together. They were both came up together with the Commanders. Whatever it is, you can almost always find sometimes guys hire people they don't know just based on, hey, I was really impressed by them in the interview process. More times than not, it's this like, hey, we were both grad assistants at, Hofstra at the same time, and we've been buddies ever since, and our wives vacation together and all that crap. So there's all kinds of incestual reasons that guys get hired in the NFL that go so far beyond the resume. And a lot of it's just about hiring your friends and your family and your buddies, and doing everybody a solid. It's a very, it's a very insider-based profession. So otherwise, the Kyle Shanahans and the Clay and Clint Kubiaks and these guys wouldn't suddenly all wind up coaching. Is it they're all blessed with the coaching gene, or is it kind of like the Petties in auto racing? The Unsers in auto racing. It's like it's kind of handed down to you through. I don't want to say nepotism, because I'm not trying to say these guys have no talent. I'm just going to say that the Kubiaks and the Shanahans of the world don't get opportunities, especially as young coaches at the beginning, without that last name. Just the way it is. And guys hire their friends. So Borgonzi's really, and he's the GM in Tennessee. He's been charged with being the guy running that coaching search. It's kind of a circus of an organization. They'll probably lean on Borgonzi. He's got the football acumen. He's got the football resume. They'll probably give him the final call. He's probably going to hire Nagy. So I don't think Saleh's going to necessarily go to Tennessee. I don't know that he even wants to go to Tennessee. Heck, if I'm Robert Saleh, I want to go to Baltimore. They have Eric DeCosta. They have Lamar Jackson. I'll go there. And what's going to be interesting? It's going to be interesting if Baltimore, there's a lot of talk that Baltimore wants Jesse Minter, Jim Harbaugh's hand-picked defensive coordinator at Michigan and with the Chargers. Okay, well, if that's the case and Baltimore doesn't go to Saleh, if you're Robert Saleh and Baltimore comes calling, you go. And you don't think twice. If you're Robert Saleh and Pittsburgh comes calling, you go. It's another one, by the way. Omar Khan, I heard, is tight with somebody, and I forget who it was. It was a name, though, that was not a highly coveted name that may get an opportunity to be the next coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers because he's got a connection to Omar Khan. They were buddies way back. So it's a big incestual thing for sure, and guys hire their buddies. But if I'm Saleh and I get Pittsburgh or Baltimore, I'm going. If I'm Saleh and I get Arizona or the Raiders, I'm not going. There was a lot of talk that Josh Williams would be the GM in Atlanta and that he would hire Clint Kubiak as the offensive coordinator and try to bring in Robert Saleh as the defensive coordinator. But Robert Saleh is not going to leave for a defensive coordinator job. And you heard Shanahan in the postgame. They're not allowing Clint Kubiak or Clay Kubiak to leave for an OC job. He's the OC here. That would be a lateral move. If Clay Kubiak leaves, he's got to be a head coach. If Robert Saleh leaves, he's got to be a head coach. You heard John Lynch say it. Hey, we're going to do everything in our power to retain Robert Saleh. So this is the one area where, Jed, if you really want to bust out the dollars, this is it. There's no cap here. You can pay these guys anything you want. You want to pay some, defensive backfield coach $15 million, you can do it. Doesn't impact anything. There's no cap, there's no limit, there's no nothing. So if you really want to win as bad as your uncle wanted to win, then maybe you should start throwing around some money in the areas that aren't capped. Because Eddie would. You think with a non-cap coaching staff, if Eddie D still owned the Niners, what do you think they'd have? They'd have probably Spags. They'd probably have Dave Taub as their special teams coach. He'd be hiring guys he'd be paying guys to, double and triple their salary to go be an assistant for the Niners. He'd let everybody know about it as well. We're paying our offensive coordinator more than 12 NFL head coaches. Our teams are paying their head coach. He would boast about it. He'd puff out his chest and be like, "Look at us. We're over here. We're spending." We'll see if Jed, if they spend what they need to spend to keep Robert Saleh. I would say after watching this year, keeping Robert and watching what Robert Saleh did with this group of talent, after watching what Nick Sorensen did last year with talent that was probably maybe as good or better, Robert Saleh is worth every penny you pay him. And I would absolutely incentivize him to stay significantly. So that's a little bit and then Clay Kubiak is also interviewing. And I know a lot of people don't think Clay's going to get a job. He won't leave for the OC. Shanahan's not going to let him. But I think it's highly likely that Clay Kubiak gets a gig. Why? Because Clint Kubiak is probably going to either win, I think is going to be in the Super Bowl and maybe win the Super Bowl. And there's going to be teams that want him, probably multiple teams. Well, when you lose out on Clint Kubiak and you're like, we wanted that guy, it's going to be really easy to pivot to Clay and say, Well, you know what? They grew up in the same family, same lineage, same experiences, very similar guys. Let's go with Clay. So even though there's not a lot of smoke around Clay Kubiak, there is a ton of teams and owners around pro football that covet the Shanahan system. And that's why I think Saleh's for sure going to get opportunities because he's obviously a great defensive coach, but he's got connections to a lot of these coaches in the Kyle system. And then I think Clay Kubiak is likely to get a job because there's I've already read that there's 3 or 4 teams that really are interested in Clint. Well, only one team can get Clint. So Clint's going to leave Seattle, and then somebody's going to be like, well, you know what? Yeah, we could go for this guy or that guy, but why don't we go for Clay? We really like Clint and his background. We really love what he brings. Doesn't Clay bring a lot of those things? So I think there's a high likelihood the Niners lose both coordinators. Now, I don't think they're screwed because that's the beauty of having Shanahan, is that he is the system. And he can have a number of different guys help him run his system, but he's the system. He's the sequencer. He's the play designer. He's everything. He is the offense. So you don't, unlike, you look at some of these teams, Philadelphia, for example, they just dumped Kevin, whatever, their offensive coordinator. Jalen Hurts is going to have his 7th offensive coordinator in like 7 years. That can't be a good thing. The lack of continuity, especially on offense, is a big, big thing. You need continuity on your coaching staff, but you really need it on your offensive coaching staff. Offensive football is so much about cohesion and continuity and play design and repetitions and having the same quarterback and the same weapons, the same system and not changing it and all that. So I we'll see. But it looks like the Niners are going to wind up losing probably. I think they're going to wind up losing Saleh and Clay Kubiak. And if they lose Saleh, I think they're prepared. They've got Gus Bradley there. I think they could easily hand the reins to Bradley. He's been a former NFL head coach. He's a really smart guy. He's the guy who designed Seattle's, defense, their Legion of Boom, cover 3, heavy defense that they went with that helped them win a Super Bowl and reach 2. So, I think that's the obvious one. If Robert Saleh leaves, they have continuity there. And Gus Bradley, I think, would be it. Now, people have mentioned other names, Ulbrich and other names, but I just think Gus Bradley's here for a reason. I think Gus Bradley was here for this year, and then, he gets they have that continuity, and maybe they lose Saleh, but then Bradley takes over. So I think the Niners, you don't want to lose Saleh, and as I just said, I would pony up big to keep him. But if you do lose him, I think you're still okay because you have Gus Bradley. And as far as Kubiak goes, I think if you lose him, you're still okay because you have Shanahan, and he can pick any number of guys that could probably help him run his offense. You don't want to lose those guys, but it's not a disaster. Now, a couple other thoughts. Demo Lenore said in the postgame that the game would have been a landslide if the 49ers had been healthy. You can't say that. You just can't say that. You got beat by too much. That's too much of, if we had been healthy, Yeah, if my grandmother had balls, she'd be my grandfather. Okay, well, we can play this if game for fucking ever. You know what, Demo? It's awesome to have confidence. It's awesome to tell everybody that you're good and believe it. But you know what's even more awesome? Accepting that when you got beat, and crediting your opponent like a good sport would, and not just sit there. It would have been a landslide if we'd been healthy. That's weak. Okay. There's just no way around it. That's weak sauce. If I was a Seattle player, I'd be like, I think I'd be calling Demo Lenore a landslide for the rest of his career. Really? Would have been a landslide? You can't say that. You cannot say that. That was a huge mistake. This guy's veteran. He's savvy. But come on, bro. Own it. You win. You lose. Own both. That's the way it is. Playing a football, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. Own it. Don't run from it. Don't make an excuse. Once again, there's a gigantic sign inside the Niner locker room. They won't let you take a picture of it, but I'll just tell you what it says. Team rules. Protect the team, number one. I think rule number 2 is like no excuses. No excuses. That's one of their rules. So Demo, don't break your own freaking rules. No excuses. No excuses means no fucking excuses. So I don't want to hear about no fucking landslide if the Niners have been healthy. Yeah, guess what? If Lynch had picked better players, they'd be a dynasty. If Shanahan made perfect calls every week, they'd be a dynasty. But they're not. So let's stop jerking ourselves off to bullshit and own our failures. To say it would have been a landslide victory is bullshit. And it's just flapping your gums, bro. You're just talking. It means absolutely nothing. And there's a time to talk and there's a time to shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? And that's one of them. When you lose, you credit your opponent and you move on. I'm a competitive guy too. And when I win, I'll boast. But if I lose, I own it. Try that. And I get it. When you're a corner, you got to be wired a certain way. So what? The game's over, bro. It's time to credit your opponent. They beat you. And they beat you by a fucking ton. It wasn't like, if we had just done. No. Nick Bosa and Fred Warner were going to mean 35 points difference? No. Loser talk, dude. That's loser talk. You can't throw out loser talk unless you want to be called a loser. And I don't think Demo's a loser, so he's got to end that loser talk. It would have been a landslide if the Niners had been healthy. That's a bunch of bullshit. There's anybody who believes that, I'd love to meet them because I don't believe that. Does anybody really believe the Niners were going to blow them out if they hadn't been healthy? If they hadn't healthy? Come on. Even if you think that, you can't say it. Be gracious in defeat. I mean, seriously. Have you ever coached a team? Have you ever been a parent? You ever led a young person? You're going to tell them to make excuses? What happened to your no excuses? What happened to the team's mandate of no excuses? If we had been healthy, we would have beaten them in a landslide. That's a pathetic, weak excuse. Put it away, bro. Nobody cares. As far as Trent Williams, he confirmed that he's coming back next season during his end of the season press conference and says he wants to play a while. So, good for Trent. That's good to hear. If I'm the 49ers, I'm definitely looking for an offensive tackle in this draft. We'll get into that. But I definitely am looking for an offensive tackle. Niners have a lot of needs, though. I was looking at some of the numbers on the Niner corner numbers against the Seahawks. Upton Stout was targeted twice. He gave up 15 yards allowed and a 75 passer rating when targeted. So he played pretty well. Demo Lenore was targeted twice, gave up 4 yards, 56.3 passer rating when targeted. He played pretty well. Darrell Luter, targeted twice, gave up 20 yards allowed and a touchdown on the JSN corner route or in the corner of the end zone. But the passer rating that Luter allowed when targeted, 147.9. That ain't good. Renardo Green was targeted once. He gave up a catch for 11 yards. The passer rating when he was targeted, 112.5. That's not good. Somebody with the Niners told me a couple weeks ago, and I'm not talking about like PR people, or I'm talking about people who know the inner workings of their thinking. That the Niners are getting tired of Renardo Green, that he doesn't fit their culture, that he's not a fit, and that they're going to trade him. And I heard the same thing about Ricky Pearsall, that he's likely to be trade bait this offseason. And obviously Ricky didn't do anything this year. I mean, really nothing. He had a couple nice games early. Then he had the PCL injury, couldn't come back from it. Didn't score any touchdowns, first round draft choice, couldn't get on the field. PCL injury caused him to miss like almost 2 months of action in the middle of the year. Then he banged it again, couldn't come back, couldn't play in the playoff game, but he might have been able to play if it had been the next day. And it's like, whatever. Then he got out in this game. He makes one catch. No, trapped it, not a catch. So, they needed Ricky Pearsall to be a first-round receiver, and he has not been a first-round receiver. And I know he's got this really nice, really kind of sad, tragic story about how he was shot. And there's so many people that don't know shit about football that just love Ricky Pearsall and think he's the greatest. But you know what? You got to play and you got to produce. Otherwise, you're not great. And he doesn't play and he doesn't produce, so he's not great. So anybody who tells you, oh, but Ricky's really great, that's probably Ricky's uncle. That's probably Ricky's neighbor. That's probably Ricky's family or friends. Because if you're objective, he was a first-round draft choice. He scored no touchdowns. None. Like all of you and me had the same number of touchdowns this year as he had. I mean, it's just, come on. The job is catches and touchdowns. If you make them, you're great. If you don't, you suck. It's as simple as that. I mean, nothing against Ricky. He's a nice guy, but it hasn't happened here. And I don't, it wouldn't shock me at all. If he were traded in the offseason, it would not shock me. Would not shock me in the slightest. And maybe you find a receiver that, that also sucks where he's at. Flip him to Jacksonville for Brian Thomas Jr. in a pick. Or, Ricky in a pick for Brian Thomas Jr. if you have to. He was popular in that part of the country. He played at Florida. They'll love him there. There's less pressure there. Let him go catch passes for Trevor Lawrence and find himself, and let the Niners have a receiver that can actually play more than a game without getting hurt. So, very disappointing year for Ricky Pearsall. First round pick, no touchdowns. That's really it. We could talk about everything else all day. I don't want to hear about touchdowns or this. Yeah, you can come up with any excuse you want. But once again, there's a gigantic sign on the wall in the locker room saying, we're the 49ers and we don't make excuses. So shut the fuck up about your excuses. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And I don't care about his excuses. I don't care about the PCL. I don't care about the injuries, the shooting, or anything else. None of it matters. None of it matters. It's all about, do you produce or do you not produce? And he doesn't produce. Period. End of discussion. He could be the greatest guy. He could be the nicest guy. He's fun to golf with. He's a cool guy. Everybody loves him. He's a fun-loving dude. Whatever. Does he score touchdowns? No. He might as well be Austin Pleasance, because Austin Pleasance doesn't score touchdowns either. So that's how I feel about that. And when I heard the person in the know tell me that they're very easily could move on from him in the offseason, I thought, well, another wasted number one by this regime. How many number one draft picks can we waste? It's just unbelievable how little bang the Niners have gotten out of their number one draft choices in this regime. It actually fries my bacon to no end, really, when I think about it. Just awful. As far as what the Niners need to do on the defensive side, you got to build up that line. You took over this team. You said you wanted the defensive line to be like where you made your mark and where you defined your team and where you spent your money and all this crap. And you had Armstead and Buckner and Ford and Bosa and all kinds of good players on the bench. You had two starting lines and depth that no other team enjoyed. And now what? Now what do you got? You got nothing. Now I like Alfred Collins and CJ West as interior run stuffers, but you got no pass rush. The Niner pressures and sacks as a team against the Seahawks. I was looking at that list. 2 pressures for Sam Aquinu. I thought Sam Aquinu played probably the best of anybody that I saw. D. Winters, I thought, played really well. He had a couple pressures. CJ West had a sack and a pressure. I thought he played well. Kalia Davis had 1 pressure. Upton Stout had a pressure. Malik Mustafa had a sack and a pressure. Jordan Elliott had a pressure. They were able to pressure the run. I mean, they were able to get pressure on Sam Darnold on 9 of his 19 dropbacks and sack him twice. But the run defense was just absolutely horrible. And this is 2 games in a row. They just couldn't stop the run. They just got absolutely gashed. mean, that was probably the biggest, most frustrating part about this game with Seattle is that you came into it going, man, you got to stop K9. Can't let K9 run. And Sam Darnold beat you, but did he really beat you, or was he just the quarterback standing out there when Seattle beat you? Sam Darnold only threw 17 times all day. They shot him up with drugs before the game on his injury. He didn't feel it, but then he didn't have to do anything. When K9's running for 6-1 a carry, 116 yards, 3 touchdowns, he just gashed him. I mean, Charbonnet went out with an injury, and it didn't even matter. Seattle ran 33 times for 5-3 a carry. So think about that. It's 1st and 10. Then they run. 2nd and 5 or 2nd and 4.5. Then they run. Oh, now it's 1st down. Then they run. Now it's 2nd and 4.5. Then they run. Now it's 1st down. That's what it's like. I mean, you just none of it. Everything else like doesn't matter. It's like telling me you did an awesome kitchen remodel. Oh man, yeah, we spent like $85,000. We did lighting and flooring and heated counters and floors and bread warmers and awesome. We got a thermidor and we've got incredible lighting and backsplash and all this fucking bullshit. Oh, by the way, we didn't put a roof on our house and it rained really hard last night and now we're all flooded. What? You just spent $80,000 on a kitchen remodel, but you don't have a roof on your fucking house and it rained for 2 hours and now your whole house is flooded? That's like Run D. The Run D is the no roof on the house. If you can't stop the run, it doesn't matter what else you can do. It doesn't matter what other players you have. If Kenneth Walker's gashing your ass for 6-1 a carry, it doesn't fucking matter if you're good on special teams. It doesn't fucking matter if you can play pass coverage. None of it fucking matters if you can't play the run. They couldn't play the run. Thanks for coming. Get on the bird, go home, end of season. Thanks for coming. I mean, that's the Niners. They could not stop the run. They absolutely got plowed in the run game. If you looked at PFF, and I'm critical of PFF from time to time because I sometimes think it's not that indicative sometimes of who's actually good. Man, the PFF grades, I think, nailed it. The highest graded 49er defense, Demo Lenore, played really well. Upton Stout played really well. Keon White, great addition by Lynch, by the way, played really well. Jason Pinnock played smart football. Clee Farrell was out there. Here's the other thing, too. I'm a big advocate. Not advocate. That's not the right word. I'm a big believer in the dudes that show up when the thing is freaking done. Because that tells you who's got guts and who's got heart. And when the Niners their doors had been blown off and they were down by 4 scores and Seattle's just running the ball, putting the game away, just putting the exclamation point on this ass kicking that they delivered the 49ers over the weekend. Guess who's making the tackles on the last drive? Clee Farrell. Kenneth Walker right. That's a gain of 4. Cleveland Farrell on the tackle. Kenneth Walker left. Gain of 4.5 yards. 1st down, Seattle. Clee Farrell on the tackle. As far as I'm concerned, that shit matters. Who's going to fire when it ain't fun? Who's going to fire where there ain't no glory? Ain't no glory in tackling Kenneth Walker as they're putting the final nail in your goddamn coffin. There's no glory in that. But guess what? Those tackles have to be made. Clee Farrell made those tackles. Clee Farrell's got guts. Clee Farrell's got balls. Clee Farrell's got, he's up there. He's going to fight. He's going to fight. And he's not going to quit fighting until the final whistle blows and you're taking off the helmet and now you're headed to the locker room. Tons of respect for Clee. Because those you think people want to make those tackles? 200-pound K9 coming at you, putting the game away. They've already won. They're up 4 touchdowns. and they're just trying to run out the clock. Somebody's got to make those tackles. Cleve Farrell was all around the ball in the fourth quarter. Great pickup. Great guy. Great guy. As far as, not just great guy, but great football character. And that's what this thing is about. It's about football character. And Cleve Farrell's got a ton of it. So, credit Cleve, Pinnock, Keon White, Upton Stout, Demo Lenore, all played great. Lowest graded Niners on defense, Darrell Luter. I love Darrell Luter's, prospects, but, eventually you got to do it. And he's at that point now. He's got to do it. Alfred Collins had a low grade. Siegel, who was really great in Philly, bounced back with not a great performance. CJ West, Garrett Wallow, they were on that list as well. I thought West played pretty well, actually. Wallow is asking, a street free agent, career special teamer to get in there from scrimmage and in a playoff situation against the best teams in the NFL and make plays. There's a reason he's a special teamer, right? There's a reason for it. So that was just maybe asking a little too much. West and Collins, rookies at the end of the year, a long year, but they continue to get better. But, yeah, those are the lowest graded Niners. As far as offense, who were the highest graded players on offense? Jake Tonjes, who played great and then got hurt. You knew he was going to see the ball a lot, and he did. But he had a key fumble. He had a ball that Ernest Jones popped out, and a lot of people will remember that fumble. But other than that, I thought Tonjes played really well. Connor Colby had a high grade. He only played 3 snaps, so that doesn't really matter. Colton McKivitz had a high grade, but he gave up a lot of pressures. I'm not sure how that works. Jordan James. How about that? We got a little Jordan James sighting. Would have been awesome to see him before January the 17th. He looked pretty good in camp. Would have been, if you told me in camp, hey, this guy looks good. This guy looks good. He's catching the ball. He looks good. When do you think we'll see him? I think January 17th, maybe, for a little spot duty. It was January 17th. What? We're not going to see him until January? What does he have? Is he out for the year? No, he looked good. He looked faster than CMC. And maybe that's part of this as well. Is that CMC, long year, was beat up at the end of the year. Maybe 400 touches isn't a good thing. This just in. Maybe they should have, I don't know, spread the ball fucking around a little bit. I don't know. What do I know? I'm not Kyle Shanahan. I'm not some genius. All I know is that you acquired a starting caliber running back and paid a draft pick to get him in Brian Robinson and then didn't use his ass. You used a pretty high pick on Jordan James and didn't use him at all. Corey Kiner looked awesome in camp. You cut him. You got nothing. You hand the ball to CMC. You were handing the ball to Christian McCaffrey when you're down 41-6. What are you doing? Seriously, what are you fucking doing? He is Christian McCaffrey. You're down 41-6. He's obviously hurt. He had 400 plus touches. Hand him the ball. Hand him the ball. Hand him the ball. Hand him the ball. Make that make sense. Make that make sense. How many times this year where the 49ers, the game was decided, and Brian Robinson standing right there on the sidelines. Jordan James is right there. More CMC, more CMC, more CMC. It's just like CMC is like Kyle's binky. It's like he's not comfortable without him. It's like his favorite toy. We all had that, we all had that favorite toy as a kid on Christmas. You get a bunch of toys, but you get that one that you love and you just play with it. You play with it. It doesn't even make it to the new year. It's like already broken. By December 30th, it's broken. What happened to your toy? Well, I played with it for 19 hours a day for the last 3 days, and now there's a button missing and a knob popped off and it doesn't quite work the same. Well, Jimmy, maybe you overplayed with that toy. Well, Kyle, maybe you overplayed with that toy. What in the fuck is Shanahan doing running Christian McCaffrey in January 17th down 41-6? And don't tell me he's competitive. You're the coach. They should have, when that game was out of hand, it should have been Jordan James and only Jordan James the rest of the way. Christian, we're taking your helmet. So I didn't get the usage. The usage of the backs made no sense. No sense. Lowest graded Niners on offense, Luke Farrell. God, what a terrible signing that was. A blocking tight end who stone hands and is just an okay blocker. He's a decent blocker. I'd rather go get an offensive lineman off the street and save the $5 million that you paid Luke Farrell and go find another pass rusher or another whatever. A blocking tight end you paid money to who doesn't really block all that great and can't catch. Not impressed. The Luke Farrell signing is just like, really? I mean, tell me whose nephew that guy is. I mean, that's just unbelievable. Spencer Burford had a really low grade, 43.5. You can let him walk as a free agent? He's a free agent. Brian Robinson, 48.6 grade, one of the lowest grades. You can let him walk as a free agent? He's a free agent. Ricky Pearsall, 51.6, one of the lowest graded players on the team. Kendrick Bourne, 52.5. That's another one of those. Enough of these goddamn maneuvers that make no fucking sense. You can have a bunch of big defensive linemen. You can have a bunch of fast offensive linemen. You can have a bunch of, players that are similar skill sets at linebacker. You have to have a varied and diversified skill set at wide receiver. And you had an opportunity to pick up Brandon Cooks, who runs fast, is from Stockton, and a vertical threat. And you signed 4'7" Kendrick Bourne when you already have 4'7" Jawan Jennings? You want another slow possession receiver? Go find a receiver that complements what you got. Part of the reason that you couldn't run is that nobody's scared about your receivers because you have no fucking speed. And you add another slow receiver? I know we had a couple 150-yard games, and everybody's like, oh, Bourne. That's not the complementary piece that you needed. And Brandon Cooks probably would have been. And to watch Cooks do his thing over the weekend, I think with Buffalo, he's a downfield guy. And he would have helped this team. And he was out there for anybody to have. But no, we know Bourne. I mean, how many times did the Niners pick up guys all throughout training camp? Well, we know this guy. We had him here a couple of years ago. Yeah, he couldn't play then. He can't play now. Yeah, but we know him. It's like, what is this? Is this a football team or is this a street gang? Everybody has to be like known. You have to have the right tats and the right brands. He doesn't have our brand. He doesn't have our tat. He can't be in our gang. How about let's just fuck all that and get the best players? How about that? Think about that for a second. How about fuck getting redundant parts? Why do you need two JJs when it's just going to piss off the one JJ that you have? Why not go get a Brandon Cooks who's got actually vertical speed and can make plays down the field? So now teams will have to defend you more honestly. Nope. We're going to go with the guy we got. We like this guy. We had him here. They did that move 9 times. How many times did they pick up guys that they had before? I mean, literally. The receiver they had active in the Eagles game. The special teamer. Oh, we had him here before. What is it? It's like the Niners don't have a personnel department. It's like Shanahan's going, by this flying by the skin of his teeth on how he thought about guys that came out in the draft 3 years ago. Is that all this is? I mean, do you have a real personnel department? Or are they just a bunch of guys who are sitting around collecting checks and then Shanahan's just going to make the call with Lynch? Yeah, I had him. Yeah, we had him in camp a couple of years ago. Yeah, Kyle, did you like him then? Yeah, I kind of liked him then. Well, our scouts say, well, fuck all them. Let's just go with what I got. How many times did they just keep bringing back same guys that they had before? Why? Because that reeks of we don't have a personnel department. That reeks of our coaches and our head coach are making the personnel decisions. It's not the way you do it. You don't have your quality control guy drafting for you. So why would you have your offensive line coach? making your personnel decisions. Why don't you use your scouts? Those guys make a lot of money. They travel the road. They're watching college games. Go ask any Niner coach today about top tier players at any position in the draft and look at the blank stare they give you. Why? Because they're not watching it. They're watching the Seahawks. They're watching the Bears. They're watching the teams that they've played and then will play. They don't have time to go watch Ohio State, Rutgers. They don't have enough time to watch Wisconsin against Illinois. They don't have that time. So why don't we take the guy that was there watching it? Why don't we listen to him? But no, between now and draft day, the coaches will get just enough up to speed that all of a sudden, they're making calls. And it's like, what do you know about it, bro? You're coaching offensive line technique. What do you know about these 9 offensive linemen and how they compare? Have you met them? Have you talked to anybody who knows them? No. The best scouts are they're like detectives. They get all kinds of information. And that's a big part of it. Coaches don't get that. They don't get that. They're coaching. Let's have everybody do what they're good at. How about that? Do what you're good at. So how about Kyle just coaches? How about Lynch, he's a great face in the franchise? How about just let him do that? These franchises are worth an awful lot of money. Having a popular, likable public face of your franchise has real value. Probably real value that equates to millions of dollars in the form of a salary. But go get a proven personnel guy who isn't good in front of the cameras, doesn't have a glib quote, isn't a Hall of Famer, can't be the MC of all these charity functions. But guess what? You can put 5 defensive linemen in front of him. And you can say, that guy's a donkey. That guy's a bust. That guy's a starter. That guy's a Pro Bowler. That guy's going to the Hall of Fame. And be right. That's what they need. They need their Brian Gutekunst. They need their top tier scout that has conviction and vision and knowledge and balls and perspective and can stand up to Lynch and stand up to Shanahan and say, no, get your assistant coaches out of here. I'm telling you the best players are these guys. Draft them. Where's that conviction? As the Niners have missed 10 times in the 3rd round alone. As the Niners have missed 18 times in the first 3 rounds just under this regime. That's why they're at home. None of this other stuff. Even the injuries. Everybody's got injuries. Can you withstand them? If you're good enough at drafting, then you can withstand them. But yeah, everything stems from, it's like the players, Christian wants to be in there. I don't care. It's 41-6. Put somebody else in there. Christian wants to get every snap. I don't care. You're up 2 touchdowns in the 4th quarter, and there's 7 more games to go, and then the playoffs, and you need this guy healthy for the playoffs. I don't care what he wants. Jesus. If somebody's got to be the bad guy with Christian, pay me. I'll tell him to sit down. Sit down. I mean, seriously. If you're too close to the players that you can't tell them to sit down, then you're too close to the players. That might be an issue. All right. Right now, what's it looking like in the offseason? Niners currently have projected to have 7 picks in the upcoming draft. A 1st-round pick, a 2nd-round pick, a 3rd-round pick, and then a 4th-round pick, as well as 2 compensatory picks in the 4th round and a 5th-round compensatory pick. They also have Mac Jones. They're going to be able to get a pick for Mac Jones, maybe a player and a pick. Likely a day 2 pick, maybe a 2nd-round pick. They're likely to trade Ricky Pearsall and Renardo Green. You probably could pick up an extra pick or 2 right there by moving those guys. So they're going to have some picks, and then they're going to probably lose Josh Williams as a general manager. That's going to bring them 2 third-round compensatory picks. I don't believe in this draft, but I believe the next 2 drafts after. I could look that up and see if it would be for this draft. But the Niners have a number of holes. They need some special players for sure. We'll get into it, but they also need depth. They need depth. And, I thought that ESPN did a ranking of the draft classes last week. And, I'm not thinking that the Niners draft class was perfect, but they gave them the 26th rated draft class in 2025 out of 32 teams. Come on. That's bullshit. They just on volume alone, they're going to have a number of contributors from last year's draft class. You can't put them 26th. That was too low of a grade, much too low of a grade. And God knows if Curtis Rourke ever becomes anything at all, that grade's going to go way, way, way higher. When you take a late round quarterback, if he turns into something, as we saw with Brock Purdy, suddenly your grades, change quite a bit. But we're now in the offseason. And I tweeted about this. There's about 20 free agents that, and I'll share the screen. I'll show you my tweet. You guys can look at it. But the Niners have some issues they got to work through. One of them is this disconnect that exists on this offensive line. I have absolutely no faith in the 49ers to actually fix their offensive line because it's like they're a doctor that can't correctly diagnose the illness or injury. Kyle Shanahan told us last week that he thinks Jake Brendel is one of the best centers in the NFL. One of the best centers in the NFL. Now, either we're all fucked up or he's fucking delusional. But I think it's probably the latter. And here's why. Because you didn't run a quarterback sneak. If Jake Brendel's some badass standing across from Gabe Murphy and Leonard Williams, why didn't you run a quarterback sneak 2 plays in a row? The fact that he had absolutely no faith with the season on the line on 4th and short to run a quarterback sneak 2 plays in a row tells you that Jake Brendel is not the best center in the NFL. So let's everybody stop smoking everybody and let's start evaluating. Forster loves Brendel. Purdy loves Brendel. Shanahan loves Brendel. That's all great. But if you can't run up the middle on 4th and 1, what the fuck good is he? You don't tell me what you I don't care what anybody says. I care what people do. I love you, Lair. I love you, Lair. I love you, Lair. I love you, Lair. Where's my fucking contract that shows that you love me? Don't tell me you love me. Show me you love me. Oh, you're the best. You're the best. You're the best. You're the best. Don't smoke me. Tell me the truth. Don't glad hand me. And right now, this whole Jake Brendel's as good as it gets. Really? Well, then how come on 4th and 1 you would not run up the middle to save your fucking life? Why? If your center is one of the best in football, wouldn't you run behind him? He's not one of the best in football. And I don't care what the PFF grades say. In this situation, Shanahan tells you. Shanahan wants to win. Do you think if he had a bulldozing center that he really felt he could, run behind some road grading monster who just constantly opened holes, they would run behind him all day. They don't. 4th and 1, time for a quarterback sneak. Nope, we can't do that. Let's try something sneaky. This is what we'll do. We'll get to 4th and 2, and then we'll have our quarterback pitch it to our slow fullback, who will go east and west down the line of scrimmage to the short side of the field, and then he'll flip it back not accurately to our star running back, who will have absolutely nowhere to go, and then the ball will roll out of bounds, and that will be the good news, is that we don't cause a fumble. That was your 4th down play? East-west, slow developing, fullback, option read, pitch. I mean, garbage. Horseshit play. The worst fucking call of the fucking year. By far. 4th and 2 in the biggest game of the year, and you go fucking slow developing pitch play from your quarterback to your fullback to your running back to the short side of the field. You deserve to lose. When I saw that play, I was like, fuck, they are done. Dunzo. Horrible call. Horrible call. We thought there were going to be one guy out there. There was two. What? Some slow developing. You fake that and you go fullback dive. You fake that and you run in the A gap if you love your center. If your center is the best center in football, you don't run wide, some slow developing pitch play with your fullback. Any penetration at all, and the play's blown up. At best, you're going to get it by a razor's thin edge on some marking. I mean, just awful. Just horrendous fourth down call. That was one of the worst calls Shanahan has ever had since he's been here. In that level of a game, 4th and 2 against the fastest fucking defense you've faced all year, you're slow as shit, and you run your fullback, and then you ask him to pitch it? Seriously. I mean, that was fucking, somebody's high. Absolutely high. I mean, that was like the worst offensive call ever. That one right there, they should have just fucking dropped their helmet and got back on the bus and left. That was fucking embarrassing. There aren't too many moments that are embarrassing. That was embarrassing. That was fucking embarrassing. Pathetic call. That couldn't work. That wouldn't work. I hope they run that 10 times next year just to show you guys that it ain't going to work fucking 10 times. That ain't never going to work. Short side against a fast defense with your fullback who's 34 years old to pitch it to your back who's 3.5 yards behind him on 4th and 2. Yeah, let's do this. Let's have a play that goes east-west, and then we'll flip it 3, even though it's 4th and 2, we'll then flip the ball back. So now we're going to turn our 4th and 2 into 4th and 5.5 when we have 4.5 yards to get to the sidelines. Unbelievable idiot play. And that was horrendous. Can you call yourself an offensive genius if that is your play? I mean, that was embarrassing. Embarrassing. In fact, when this stream's over, I'm gonna go find that play and retweet that play and just blister people with some commentary around it. That was fucking absolutely an embarrassment. An embarrassment. You're not an offensive guru if that's your 4th and 2 play. I mean, the only thing that would have saved that play is if suddenly a receiver had come from the sidelines and after the pitch to the handoff to Juice and then the pitch to CMC, if he had then thrown it backwards to a receiver going the other side of the field, the wide side of the field, then you'd be like, whoa, look at this. Look at the creativity. They're letting it all hang out. But they didn't. They didn't. It was just a horrible, horrible play that blew up in their faces. Unbelievable. The other thing, this was kind of an interesting stat I saw. Since 1984, this is on Twitter, teams with 8+ days of rest advantage in the playoffs against their opponent are 8-0 in such games. The team with the shorter rest has been held to 10 points or fewer in 7 of the 8 games, while the team with longer rest has scored 20+ points in all 8 games. So, when you have this kind of a rest situation, it's almost like a sentence. So that, the Niners were operating. They were sprinting uphill. They had very little chance, and I was hoping they would pull some magic. Partially is because I was getting on a bird and going to Seattle, and I didn't want to justify going all the way up there just to think they had no chance at all. So, I'm like, I convinced myself they had a shot, but man, that thing was over. That thing was over immediately. Mid-first quarter, I was like, God, let me get the fuck out of here. As far as free agents for the Niners, here's the list. Key free agents. Juwan Jennings. Sign him. Don't sign him for $20 million, but sign him. Do not give him $20 million. If he wants $20 million and it's like, hey, man, I want $20 million or I'm going to bolt, say, bro, we just called an Uber. They're going to pick you up in 5. We'll get you out to SFO or wherever you're flying from. Beat it. See ya. We're not paying you $20 million. You're not a $20 million receiver. We're not going to pay you based on anything other than what we think we're getting out of you. And no way. He's not worth $20 million. He's probably not worth 15, to be honest. But I think I would offer him 2 years, $32 million. Offer him 16 a year. And that's it. And that, I'd just say to him, hey, man, take it or leave it. And you got like an hour. Figure it out. We're not doing no fucking drama here. That's my fucking offer. 2 years at $16 million. You want to be here? Be here. And if not, get out of here and tell me in the next 24 hours minimum. And I would just play hardball with him. No more diva wide receiver garbage. No more pouting, talking, posturing, or bullshit. You're a tough guy. We love you. We want you here. You're not a $20 million receiver. You're just not. If you think you are, go get that money from somewhere else. There are teams that will overpay. There are teams that will pay you probably fat money. I don't think anybody's going to pay him that, but I think my offer is probably overpaid. 2 years at $32 million, that's probably too much. But I'd offer him that. I don't want to disrespect him. I like him. I think he's a culture player. I want him. I'll make amends and I'll figure it out. I'll pay a slow receiver that isn't a number one. I'll pay him big money because I think he's that kind of a culture player and I need some culture players in my room. So I want him, but that's it. 2 years, $32 million. And if you want to sign, sign. And if you don't want to sign, bolt. And I'll be good. We're good either way. Kendrick Bourne, goodbye. Brian Robinson, goodbye. Eddie Pinheiro, sign him. Sign him. They should have already signed him. Eddie Pinheiro, absolutely sign him. Morstead, he was fine, but goodbye. Curtis Robinson, NFL Walter Payton Man of the Year, goodbye. Special teamer only. Eric Kendricks, thanks for what you did. Enjoy retirement. Goodbye. Cleve Farrell, love you. Love what you did in the fourth quarter of that Seattle game when everybody else was pile observation. You're out there balling. Goodbye. Sky Moore, you want to take a very reasonable deal to be our return guy? Then I'd like to have you back. Brandon Ayuk says likely release, but I think there's maybe a trade out there that could move Ayuk on. So, yeah. I'd move them all. Basically, I want JJ, I want Pinheiro, and I wouldn't mind Sky Moore. The rest of those guys can bolt. We'll figure it out. The way this season started, the way this game started the other night, Rashid Shaheed 95-yard touchdown. Then you get the Tonjes fumble. Then you get that fucking horrible, horrendous fourth down call by the Niners offensive coaching staff. And it was done. I mean, right then, they could have warmed up the team bus right then and there. It was seriously done from that point on. The Niners got to add some perimeter players as well. I mean, of course, the Ayuk thing screwed him. I mean, Ayuk is so annoying. God, if I never see that guy again, that'll be too soon. I mean, his whole implosion and, defection and whatever you want to call it, totally screwed them over. I mean, it's just they needed him. They needed him to return. Imagine if Ayuk had been just a normal rehab injury and he came back and he was, 85% of what he used to be. He would have helped. He would have helped a lot. Instead, no, nothing. Instead, you're just talking shit, driving 125 miles an hour past the stadium, acting like a 14-year-old who just, borrowed his mom's car and took it for a joyride. I mean, it's just he's got to go. I mean, he's got to go. And obviously he's going to go, but I mean, he screwed them. Absolutely screwed them. That thing went, I mean, from now on, only extend the guys that you love in every capacity. You love them as competitors. You love them as players. You love them as people. You love them as value. You love their body as far as their ability to stay healthy in the game. Only extend the creme de la creme. Everybody else, point to the door and wish them well. And that includes the Ayuks of the world. No more paying these mediocre in-between guys. If you get Jerry Rice, pay him. You got CMC, pay him. You got Trent Williams, pay him. Everybody else, point to the door and fill the need with some undrafted rookie. You're going to save your money. It's going to be a good decision. Ayuk screwed them. The Pearsall week 4 PCL injury that never fully healed. I mean, that obviously didn't help. But they had no speed at all. I mean, how do you go to camp with the only guys that can run are Pearsall, Cowing, and Watkins, and you don't add a single guy who can run all year, and then you start getting bogged down in the run game because nobody really – you got all these guys in the box, and all these people are like, oh, we'll just take away their run. And then you get Seattle – was like, screw them. We're so talented. We're just going to go light boxes. We're going to put 6 guys in the box and just dare these guys to run, and they won't be able to run because we're just that much better. And then we'll still have 2 deep safeties. They won't be able to throw the ball down the field, and we'll just strangle them. I mean, that's basically what they did. They sat their 2 deep safeties in their 2 shell. They dared the Niners to run. The Niners couldn't run. And Seattle whipped them up front and closed all the space on the second level and just laughed at the Niners. Just said, what are you guys going to do? You can't do anything. They just strangled them. It was like a cobra just absolutely getting a total stranglehold and just suffocated the Niners. Oh, we're going to force you guys to play in like a 10 or 12-yard box, and we're just going to dare you to run the ball, and you're not going to be able to do it. So goodbye, Niners. And that's what happened. If there was one bright spot in the game, it was Jordan James. Jordan James looks good. He's got a good body for the game. He's short, powerful, quick. Took 19 games to get him his first carry. 19 fucking games before you can get him up there. Yet there wasn't one game in there where you could say, "Hey, Christian, you know what? We got Carolina. Why don't you sit this one out? We're going with Jordan James." No, Christian's a competitor. He's going to demand to be in there. That's great. But, you haven't gotten to the playoffs yet with a fully intact, fully healthy Christian McCaffrey. Would have been nice. Maybe you want to use, I don't know, all the guys on the team. Couple players, Niners. Let's talk a little bit about what the 49ers have to do as far as the offseason. And I did a long, extensive tweet on this. And basically, I even did a long mock draft, so you can check that out as well. But really, I was looking at a couple areas, the free agency and potential free agents. I'm going to share the screen and let you guys take a look at this. Okay, this is my tweet from yesterday. And basically, I'm like looking at free agency priorities. I said Juwan Jennings, but not at $20 million. Eddie Pinheiro is the second option. Spencer Burford is the third priority. Sky Moore, the fourth priority. Yatir Gross-Matos, the fifth priority. Some guys like, Krug, you've lost me on Yatir Gross-Matos. He's the fifth free agent priority of their existing free agents. Calm the fuck down. Okay? I'm not saying he's the greatest player ever. I'm saying he's their fifth highest free agent priority of their existing free agents. And look at the rest of these donkeys. Elliott, Pinnock, Givens, and they're not all donkeys, but I'm pissed. Elliott, Pinnock, Givens, Bourne, Morstead, Kendricks, Weeks, Gifford, Hennessy, Brian Robinson, Patrick Taylor, Trent Taylor. These guys can all walk. All those guys walk. The thing, though, and I made this point, the thing that's so depressing about next year is that what are you going to have? You may lose Kubiak. CMC will be coming off a year where he had 440 touches. So, I mean, there's going to be a price to be paid for that kind of usage. Ayuk is gone, not coming back. JJ is either going to return with a big salary in his 30s. So what can you really depend on there? You take away some of his motivation, and he's older. Pearsall, I think, is probably going to be dealt in the offseason. And if not, I mean, he's fragile at best. At best, he's fragile. He doesn't, he didn't also, by the way, if I mean, I like Ricky, but if you looked at his college resume, there's not tons of production there either. It's not like this guy caught hundreds of balls every year. He didn't. So, does he have good ball skills? Yeah. But I mean, he's always been a little bit of a projection. How much can he actually get out there and play without being hurt? Niners are going to potentially, they don't have Kittle because he's going to be out for almost all of next year. So, I mean, no Kittle, CMC off of a career high usage, no Ayuk, Pearsall you don't know about, JJ you don't know about. You need more receivers. You haven't been able to use any of your speed. You don't really. Tonjes, I think he might be a free. I'm not sure he's a free agent, but he's probably not an everyday starter at tight end. You still need your future left tackle. So you may lose your coordinator. I mean, it's just there's a lot. You may lose Robert Saleh. I mean, it's a lot. The division. I mean, the two teams playing in the NFC Championship game are in your division. You're in the best division in pro football, and you're now the third best team in that division. It's 26 is it's frustrating. It's frustrating when you think about it. And you look how fast Nick Manwari is, how fast McDonald's defense is, and then how fucking slow the 49ers weapons are. And they got so smothered in the last two games against Seattle, they couldn't do anything. Absolutely nothing. 0 touchdowns in the last two matchups against Seattle. So Niners need a dynamic tight end. They need a dynamic receiver. They need more vertical speed. They got to scare somebody. They don't scare anybody. All right. I went through the entire list of free agents late last night when I got back to my hotel room, sitting there drowning my sorrows, drinking IPAs, throwing them down. Here are the 20 free agents that I think I'd be interested in. Now, I have Zach Wilson on this list just because I think Mac Jones is going to be traded. Zach Wilson is probably another reclamation project quarterback that, probably would be fine coming to San Francisco and he'd probably pay the Niners to come play in this offense behind Purdy and for Shanahan. So he's interesting. I'm not saying I love Zach Wilson, but, he'd be interesting. I do love Najee Harris. I mean, he wouldn't be bad as a power back, but he's not necessarily a fit running back wise, but Breece Hall would be. Great speed, Iowa State connection with Purdy. Receiver wise, those are the three best receivers in a very thin receiver free agent market. Romeo Doubs, Alec Pierce, Wan'Dale Robinson was underutilized with the New York Giants. He was great at Kentucky. Those are the three wide receivers I'd look at. With Kittle out, I would definitely try to get one of those two tight ends. Kyle Pitts, I think, is going to be great for the next 3 or 4 years. Isaiah Likely is a really good tight end as well. Offensive tackle-wise, the Seattle backup offensive tackle, Josh Jones. I really liked him. I liked him at Houston. He was at Arizona. He's athletic. He's big. I mean, that would be a good acquisition if you could get Josh Jones. Defensive ends, you got to find some more rush, and I listed a few of them there. Kingsley Enagbare from Green Bay, Boye Mafe from Seattle, Jalen Phillips from Philly, Michael Clemens of the Jets, Sam Williams of the Cowboys. All those guys, to me, that's the creme de la creme of the defensive end group. Defensive tackles, Sheldon Rankins. I mean, they need an interior rusher. They've got Collins, they've got West. They need that third guy to be somebody who can play in a rotation, who can play in a couple of different spots, and who can provide pass rush. And Sheldon Rankins can definitely do all those things. Devin Lloyd's going to get broken off. He'd probably be beyond their price range, but I think he's far and away the best linebacker. And then if I really was going to look for, free agents, I like Nick Cross, the safety from the Colts, played at Maryland, really good player, good cover safety. But I definitely would try to get one of these three corners. I love these three corners. Alontae Taylor for the Saints. Really good player. Loved him, I think, at Tennessee. I think he was at Tennessee. Then there's Tariq Woolen, who, big corner. If Gus Bradley is going to be the defensive coordinator here, I could see them getting rid of Renardo Green and going after a Tariq Woolen or a Nashawn Wright. Why? Because Gus likes a certain body type in his corner. He likes a long physical corner who's strong against the run and has that great length. And Woolen's 6'4". Taylor, I think, has got good height. Nashawn Wright's like 6'3", 6'4". I mean, those are big, long corners. I like all three of those guys. Taylor's probably my favorite of the three. He can play in the slot. He can play on the perimeter. He can play the boundary. He's really good. Alontae Taylor is a hell of a player, and he's physical. So those are the free. That's the free agent market. I mean, there's tons and tons of guys at every position. I just went through with a fine tooth comb and just scoured the whole thing for my purposes and what I was looking for, and that's what I came up with. If I could have, let's say I can have three guys on this list. Who would be my three guys? I think I would take Kyle Pitts because I really think they need a receiver. Receiving tight end. I would take Alontae Taylor because I really think they need more help in the secondary. Look how good Seattle was on the perimeter and compared to the Niners. So Alontae Taylor, come on down. Kyle Pitts, come on down. And then I would want one of those, probably one of those edge rushers. Maybe Boye Mafe. I know he didn't fulfill his potential in Seattle, but I love how fast he comes off the edge. Maybe Jalen Phillips, if you thought he could stay healthy. This whole year was a lot of positives. I mean, there were a lot of positives here. One, the positives were that the 49ers, despite all the adversity, found a way to keep fighting. And it was a gritty bunch. And then I thought the best story of the year was the fact that, Brock Purdy justified his salary. I don't think there should be no conversation anymore about, is Purdy the guy? He clearly is. And there should be no conversation about, is Purdy worth the money? He clearly is. He's clearly worth that money. So I kind of think that whole thing gets put to rest. So overall, this was a good year. I mean, it was a great. I mean, they had to go at least 11-6 with that schedule. They went 12-5. They had to win at least one playoff game. They wound up beating the Eagles on the road. So I would say overall, all things considered, it was a positive year for the 49ers. But before we're, get too glowing, the two best teams in your conference that stand between you and winning that 6th Lombardi are now in your fucking division. And yes, Stafford's old, but Seattle's young. And, Les Snead and John Schneider are really good architects. And they've got good head coaches. And, they've got the pieces in place. So the Niners were gritty. The Niners were resilient. By the end of the year, they were just basically outgunned by better teams. Their ability to go to Philly and take them down was a great story. And but there's no question that the Niners have some serious building to do, and they have to get to it. They have to get to it. And the other thing is, Jed York, if you want to save money, be smart. Don't just save money to save money. This year, they just save money to save money. He tightened the belt strings, and this team is one of the best undrafted free agent gathering teams in the league over the last, since during the Shanahan regime. And the money that's spent in the undrafted market is a pittance compared to what the money is spent overall. And for the 49ers to sit out the veteran free agent market and to sit out largely the undrafted free agent market, too cheap. It's okay to save money. It's okay to say goodbye to veterans that can't play. It's not okay to handicap your personnel department by putting these draconian financial restraints on their spending to the point where they can't offer $2.5 million to a defensive lineman that they think should have gone in the 5th round that didn't get drafted, that their scouts really love. the Niners have to get back to spending in the undrafted market. And they got to tell Jed, go save money somewhere fucking else. This is the big boy neighborhood. This is where you find big-time players. There's a lot of good undrafted players. To sit out that market to save nothing, a couple $1,000,000 in an industry where the value of these franchises is going up by the billions is not just short-sighted, it's fucking idiocy. And anybody who takes pen to paper and can look at how teams are built and what it costs, if you're not paying assistant coaches, if you're not paying for the best assistant coaches, you're a fool. If you're not a major player in the undrafted market, you're a fool. And to just have some arbitrary line in the sand, we're going to save money because you're petulant about the fact that you don't have your 6th Lombardi yet. That's loser. That's loser maneuvering. And that's the kind of tinkering that is why the Yorks are synonymous with tinkering and losing. So that was a major fuck up. And if they do that again, they deserve what they get. They deserve what they get. It's okay to save money, but it's not okay to save money at the expense of talent on your football team. The undrafted guys, what are you going to spend? $1 million? $2 million? What's the whole thing going to cost you? $5 million? $8 million? You're going to blow that on Thomas Morstead's bonus money. So don't tell me about you got to sit out the undrafted market. It was fucking stupid. It was short-sighted. It was made by somebody. It was a decision made by somebody who doesn't know football and doesn't understand roster construction. And it was one area that hurt the 49ers this year. And there was no reason for it. Absolutely no reason for it at all. All right. Whoa, we got a bunch of people in the chat here. I didn't realize we were going to have so many people watching this. Okay, so we got 2,400, almost 2,500 people watching. Let's hit some supers. Let's tell you, though, we are, of course, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera, and they're going to be opening in Petaluma in 2026. Great barbecue. They're open from 11 to 8 or until they run out. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket chili. Tell them Krug sent you. Of course, we're brought to you by Sleeper. Thank you, Sleeper. You see their name on all of our streams. Sleeper's been with us all year. Thanks to Claudaddy Arcades, who paid for us to go to Philadelphia. He's a great follow on Instagram at Claw_Daddy_Arcades to find a location near you. Also, thanks to Anthony Catania and my good friends at Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue down in Pacific Grove. Anthony's at 831-521-5264. All right, let's hit some supers here and see what people have to say. I've been bitching and moaning, but you know what? Now let's let you guys have your say. Maybe you'll have better comments than I had. Fun weekend, by the way, in Seattle. Great city. Really a fun city. There are very few cities that I'd be like, I could live here, but that's a nice city. It really is. Bayless says, from a player talent standpoint, how far are the 49ers from catching up to the Rams and Seahawks? I think the 49ers are in trouble. They're not that far away. I mean, if you just go down and look at the 49ers across the board, they need a more dynamic running back. They got quarterback, right? First of all, you got to have a head coach. They have one. You got to have a quarterback. They have one. They have two quarterbacks. They got a quarterback that can trade for a pretty good asset. So I think they're okay at quarterback. McCaffrey's a good runner. They like Jordan James. I think they could probably definitely use another runner. I like Mike Washington from Arkansas. I also like Jam Miller from Bama. It's a couple of my favorite mid-round backs, but I love Washington. They definitely could use another running back. They need dynamic speed at tight end, at receiver. They need at least a couple of reinforcements on the offensive line. They need an interior pass rushing tackle that can get to the quarterback. They have not had that since DeForest Buckner. They need multiple defensive ends. They need an entirely new linebacking core. I mean, they probably need to add 3 or 4 linebackers of note. They could really use another. They haven't had a true number one corner since Deion fucking Sanders, and that was 30 years ago. So that's what they need. I think they could do it in one off season. I think you could build this thing up in one off season. It's just about making the right picks, making the right signings, having a plan, executing your plan. They're not a country mile away from these teams, but they are a damn good personnel department led offseason away from contending. They got to make the right kinds of decisions. They got to get real about their team as well. Trent's nice, but you need your future left tackle. CMC's nice, but you're not set at running back. George Kittle's nice, but he may never be the same again. You're not set at tight end. Nick Bosa's nice, but you're not set at defensive end because you don't know what the hell he's going to give you going forward. Fred Warner's nice, but you don't know what he's going to give you at linebacker going forward. See what I'm saying? Their great players are now in that area of their career where they cannot be relied upon to lead. They're still good players, but you got to go find the next Warner, the next Trent, the next Bosa, the next Ayuk, the next CMC. That's why I'm saying they need a personnel star or at least a consultant who would say, you know what? Let's steer clear of Junior Bergen. Yes, the special teams coach's son is his teammate at Montana State. Let's not listen to our fucking special teams coach. And why don't we listen to our scouts when we're drafting? And then we don't take backup FCS receivers. That one fries my bacon when I think about that. I mean, that's just, the special teams coach's son is on his team. I don't care. Unbelievable. That was such a ridiculous pick. You could have had Willie Lampkin. Probably be your starting center right now. 510 Steve. Anyone but New England, Dave Portnoy. Yeah, Dave Portnoy is annoying as shit. He really is. He's like one of those guys that I don't even care. He could say like a million things and I could agree with all of them and I still would be like, I'd like to beat the shit out of that guy. He just looks like he's got such a punchable face. And though I will say this, I love what Portnoy did during the pandemic for, restaurants and, some of those for the restaurant industry and some of those things I think was kind of cool. So I'm not saying he's a bad guy. And I like Barstool and I think it's good, but he's clearly, drinking his own Kool-Aid. Lyle Bolliard, just think Mike McDonald could win a Super Bowl before Kyle and McVay win a Super Bowl championship. McVay's already won one. Before Kyle is in the 49er house, worst case scenario, go Patriots, please. Yeah, seriously. I'm all in on the Pats now. All in on the Pats. Go Drake May. My nephew's a big Pats fan. I love my nephew, so I'm gonna root for the Pats. Anthony LaRosa in the house. What's up, Anthony? Such a fun season, only to get the worst outcome possible in less than 48 hours. At least we have Giants baseball to look forward to. My God. Giants baseball. Come on. We bought an asset for $100 million. It's worth $5 billion, but we're still going to operate like we're a bunch of fucking cheap asses. We're the San Francisco Giants. You're fucking irrelevant and boring. Anthony LaRosa. Who are you rooting for? Pats for sure, but LA or Seattle? Give me Seattle. I'm rooting for Dave Softy Mahler. It's been a rough year for Softy Mahler. I mean, think about it. They're 90 feet away from the M's winning the World Series, and they lost. So I'm rooting for Softy. Not to win the Super Bowl, but to beat LA. Give me Pats, Hawks at Levi's with Vrabel and Drake May hosting the trophy. That would be cool. James Mockestad, Stroud versus Purdy, Cook, Larry Cook. Oh, I know. How many assholes? Seriously, how many fucking assholes out there? Content creators, I'm talking to you. I'm thinking of one in particular. I think you know who you are. No, it's not Grant. Everybody's like, all roads lead back to Grant. No, I'm not talking about Grant. I'm talking about the people that were like ripping me a couple of years ago when I'm like, dude, I think Purdy's better than Stroud. You think he's better than Stroud? Stroud? CJ? Better than the great CJ Stroud? Yeah, bro. Yeah. Brock Purdy's better than CJ Stroud. And if you don't know, now you know. The real Lynch media. Larry, I'm really worried about the Niners going forward. It's clear Schneider is better at drafting than Lynch, and they have McDonald, who Shanahan can't figure out. I think they need to make a drastic change at general manager. I hear you. I think it's more about their process. Now, I agree with you. I think they need a Gutekunst. I think they need a scout. Nobody liked Trent Baalke, but he's the guy who drafted DeForest Buckner. The Niners didn't draft DeForest Buckner. Lynch hasn't drafted DeForest Buckner. He drafted Solomon Thomas. They both had defensive tackles in the top 10. Baalke had DeForest Buckner. John's got Solomon Thomas because he took a class with him at Stanford. Who do you like more? Who do Niner fans think is smarter? Oh, they love Lynch. They love Lynch. They hate Baalke. They hate Baalke. It's not about that. Go get somebody who makes good decisions. I don't like the Niners process because they're like, when we're all in agreement, that's when we make our decisions. How many people are we talking about that have to get in agreement? That right there, I mean, just that alone, is a perfect example of how your situation's flawed. You got analytics people, you got coaches, you got scouts, you got executives, you got an ownership group. You've got, front office people. You've got Shanahan. You've got all these people. Everybody knows football. Everybody knows football. We got to have them all agree. I mean, what are the odds that everybody's going to agree? You know how hard it is to build consensus? You're over here trying to build a 14, 19-man consensus, and they're sitting there going, John Schneider's going, you know what? I like this guy. I'm going to get E-Man Worry. So, yeah, strength in numbers worked for the Warriors. It's not working that well for the Niners. Because when you have that many cooks in the kitchen, guess what happens? You hit, you miss, you hit, you miss, you hit, you miss, you hit, you miss, you hit, you miss. Well, that's not how you build. You have to hit in succession. You've got to hit and hit and hit and hit and hit and hit and hit. You can't hit, miss, hit, miss, miss, hit, miss, 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 hit, miss, miss. That you can't do it. You cannot do that. You have to hit. You got to hit in succession. So I'm a little bit concerned as well. They need to trim down. First of all, they need to take some of the decision-making power away from Shanahan. Talk to him and find out what makes him tick. Kyle, what makes you tick? We want to have you just coach. Well, you know what? I don't like that. How about we'll give you an extra $1 million? Now do you like it? How about we'll give you an extra $2 million? Now do you like it? What do you need to like it? Let's talk about that. And then Lynch, great guy. Great face of the franchise. You got Guido as your kind of business president. Have John be your football president. Have him, if his job is to really build consensus, let him build some consensus. But have a proven architect who's a scout, who's good at this. Kyle Shanahan is a play caller, sequencer, and yet I'll ask him some questions about guys, and I'm pretty convinced that he didn't know who the guy was. So if I'm asking him about guys that I'm pretty sure he didn't know who he was, then maybe he shouldn't have the call. Maybe there should be a general manager that dictates the players. Seattle's an interesting study. I think we should talk about them for just a second. They hired Pete Carroll. They had the same structure as the Niners. The Niners hired Kyle Shanahan. Shanahan brought in Lynch. The Seahawks hired Pete Carroll. He brought in John Schneider. And then eventually John Schneider ascended where he fired Pete Carroll, or the owners did, and then John stayed. And so it's kind of it was a head coach dominant structure, but then now it's a general manager dominant structure. And I kind of feel like the Niners, if they're going to have ultimate success, are going to have the same kind of thing, but it's going to require Kyle Shanahan to have total trust in that guy. Total trust that he can say, hey, I'm looking for this and this and this and this in my guys. Go find me that. And that he's going to have a guy that he knows is going to go find it. So I would like to see them streamline their deal, get Kyle out of the decision-making process, make Lynch more of a contributor and not the final say, and go get a scout who's got a vision and who's done this before, and let that guy cook. That's the way to go. And you know what? If you really know your personnel, you would, I mean, I do this job for free. I'd be like, you know what? How about this? I'll do this job, and then after I'm successful, then you pay me. And I won't take a penny until I'm successful. They got to get somebody on that kind of a deal. Somebody who's motivated. Somebody who's like literally making nothing unless they win. Somebody who's tied directly to winning and only winning. And it's not somebody cooks in the kitchen. Shanahan, you're an awesome play caller. Do that. Tell me what you want, and I'll go buy it. I'll go decide who's the right player for you. And then you just do it. You just coach. And I think Lynch, I know they have Al Guido, but I mean, this thing's gotten huge. They've got your World Cup and all kinds of concert venues and soccer teams and multiple continents and all. The Niner financial business empire has gotten big. There's enough room for another guy. Go get a super sharp scout. Go find somebody's head of college scouting. Take the Ravens head of college scouting, something like that. And then have faith. Have faith if that guy's making the right call. All right, that would be my thought on that. Let's see. Did I skip one? Okay, here we go. The guy said he was worried. That's this one. Okay, here we go. We got this one from TFS. This is wide open. New England should win, but on the road, what Rams team shows up? What was with all the turnover from the AFC teams? Turnovers. Holy shit, go Niners. By the way, New England is 8-0 on the road. They're really good on the road. So I like New England to beat Jared Stidham next week. Lyle Bolliard, you have to fight fire with fire. The way you take on the Seahawks is to build a ferocious defense and add a couple of pieces on offense, and you are there with them. You got to build up your football team. You've got the quarterback. You've got a good decision maker. You've got a guy who, is a good leader. But build your defense. I mean, to roll in there with the Wallows and Kendricks of the world, I mean, they were in a gunfight with a butter knife, as they say. Heated, heavy, 559. Krug, teams aside, I heard Seattle is nicer than San Francisco. How did you like Seattle? Yeah, I would say it is. I would say it's definitely nicer than San Francisco. As far as we went to a really nice restaurant that it was like really good. It was like 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night. There's no 10 o'clock at night nice restaurants open in San Francisco where there's all kinds of people and really good food and music. I mean, you just don't see it. You just don't see it. I thought Seattle, their fans are very nice. I mean, the people in the Pacific Northwest are very nice. It's a nice group of people. There's a lot of good people up there. But yeah, I thought their stadium is awesome, man. It's definitely better. Lumen is definitely better than Levi's. And we went out and painted the town and stayed out till 2:00 in the morning, and there was a bunch of different places going. I just liked it a little bit better. Now I'm 55. I'm not going out in the city. I live in the burbs with my wife and kids. So I'm not, going into different parts of North Beach or whatever. My kid lives down by Chestnut in the marina, but Kev likes it. But I thought it was nice. I liked it. I really liked it. And as far as the weather goes, I mean, it was a little chillier than it is here, but I mean, it was a beautiful weekend. Beautiful weekend. The area by the stadium's really nice. All kinds of places to go. The fans seemed really nice. They had like this really cool like outdoor street party kind of thing going on around the stadium before the game. I liked it. I thought it was really cool. It was a pleasant surprise. I wasn't sure what it was going to be like, but I really enjoyed it. What tale my thoughts will tell. Niners will be good in 2026. 6 draft choices, money for free agency, and roster and player trade potential. Good mix of youth experience and an elite quarterback. All right. I'm not putting the hex on them. We've got this one from Carl Zion. Am I reading that right? Carl Zion. Larry, any early draft crushes you have in mind? Oh, wow. Yeah, well, let me share the screen real quick. I just did a mock draft the other day when I was in my room. When I was getting ready. Actually, I was on the plane. They were like, we got on the tarmac, and they're like, oh, you can turn your phone on, but it's going to be a while. Somebody's hooked up to the gate and all this crap. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to bust out a mock draft right here. I'm just going to sit here and see if I can come up with a mock draft that I really like. And I found one, and I'll show you. This is one where I traded back a bunch. So I'll show it to you just because I like showing you guys these drafts because there's more picks, and then you get a better idea of what players I do like. And I do have some players that I really like a lot, as I always do. All right, here's my latest mock draft, which includes 18 picks. These are some of my favorite players across the board in this draft that I really like. These are not all of them. I probably like another, my opinion will evolve, but it's more like gathering, and I've gathered these players. All right, so Caden McDonald is kind of like a DJ Jones from Ohio State. Super strong, but he's got quick feet. Really, really strong. Really like him. I think he's a really nice interior player. D'Angelo Ponce, the corner from Indiana, is just a great player. I mean, he's a small player, but he's Upton Stout. He's not quite as strong as Stout. He's not quite the athlete of Stout, but he might be a better pure cover man. I love D'Angelo Ponce. I know he's small, but that's going to be a really good starting corner. Harold Perkins has been one of my favorite players for years. He's a 5-star high school recruit who played that star position at LSU, which is that hybrid safety linebacker, and he's got unbelievable movement ability. He wore number 7. If you get a chance to watch this guy, he's a second-level defender with unbelievable speed and athleticism, and I think Perkins in the Niner system could be an all-pro player. Zane Durant is one of my favorites from Penn State. He's a 290-pound interior rusher. He's an interior rusher, but he's got great movement ability and spin moves. And I mean, to me, if you could put Durant next to Caden McDonald or next to Alfred Collins or CJ West, Durant is that interior rusher that they need opposite those guys inside. I love Zane Durant. 285, 290, but the movement ability of a linebacker. He's just a hard guy to block, man. And if you are going to run that wide 9 and you've got the big splits and all kinds of space to operate, you're playing games up front, this guy could wreak havoc. Really like Zane Durant from Penn State. I mentioned the running back, Mike Washington from Arkansas. My favorite runner in the draft. He's a slasher, probably going to be a 4th-round pick. But I love Mike Washington. Arkansas puts out some good backs. Now, this is one of my favorite sleepers, J.C. Davis, offensive tackle from Illinois. He went to McClymonds. He's an Oakland kid. He's got great arm length, great athleticism. He's tough as hell, played for Illinois. Probably more of a right tackle than a left tackle, but I think he's a great pick anywhere on day 3. DeMonte Capehart from Clemson was I think he might have been a 4 or 5-star high school recruit. And then, Clemson's had some up years and down years. This guy's just a good rotational defensive tackle who can scheme versatile, big-bodied guy who's got some athleticism. I think he's going to play in the NFL for about 10 years. I asked CJ West the other day at his locker. I'm like, man, Indiana's stacked. I go, of all those guys that are playing in Indiana, if you could have one of those guys join this Niner team next year, who would it be? And he's like, oh, man. He thought about it for a minute. He's like, I have to say Mikhail Kamara. And I'm a big Mikhail Kamara fan. Kamara is 6 feet tall, so he's short. But he's 6 feet 260. And he's got great hand usage. He's got great flexibility. I really like him. I think he's going to be a steal as a 6 foot tall, short edge rusher, but with a great motor. Dalen Everett, a corner from Georgia, really like him. Big body guy, played in the SEC. He's a good player. Who else? Caden Curry, the Ohio State defensive end. Kind of a very, very, very poor man's Nick Bosa. But there's a lot to like there. High energy, high effort guy. Jalen Catalon was at UNLV, transferred to Missouri this year. Very physical safety. He'll really start you. Texas Tech had a tremendous defense this year. They got a guy named Skylar Gill Howard, who's very scheme versatile, kind of a defensive tackle, but has enough movement ability to play outside. Malachi Fields could be the replacement for he's a wide receiver who's at Notre Dame this year. He played at Virginia. He transferred. The 40 time is going to be interesting to watch. But the ball skills, and this guy can really play. I mean, this guy reminds me a lot of Jawan Jennings. I mean, he makes big plays, one-hand catches it in the crowd. He's better catch it in the crowd, though, because he didn't have a great 40 time. And I'm kind of bracing myself for how slow Malachi Fields is. If he's not super slow, I think I would take him. This guy, Pat Coogan, the center for Indiana, who won the MVP of the Rose Bowl, started at Notre Dame, then he finished at Indiana. I'm not really sure if he's an NFL athlete, but man, he's tough, and he's a culture kind of a player. And I just think Coogan to me is one of the secrets behind Indiana football. He's just a great leader. Desmond Purnell is a short linebacker from K-State who can really run, great second-level speed. Emil Wagner is a gigantic offensive tackle from Notre Dame. He's a developmental kid, but I love his upside potential. I think that could be a great pick. And then I love these 2 day 3 receivers. They're different. Cole Wilson plays at Baylor. He's electric. I mean, I don't know what he's going to run, but he may be 4.2. He's so fast. And he's a special teamer. He's dynamic as hell. Every time I watch Cole Wilson, I'm like, God, this guy's like 1 second away from busting one, taking it to the house. So I love Cole Wilson's speed. He is kind of diminutive. Dylan Bell is kind of like a Debo. He played at Georgia. They talk about a bunch of other guys besides him. Georgia's got all kinds of talent. But Dylan Bell makes big plays. He's got kind of a big lower half. He's kind of thick in the legs. He's got that Debo build. But, man, he's tough. And he makes big catches. And it seems like the bigger the game, the better Dylan Bell is. I don't think he's going to run a great 40, but I think he's good enough to play in the NFL. And I think he could be a real sleeper. He's going to be in the 7th round. Maybe not. Maybe he'll go higher. Maybe he'll run better. But those are the guys that stand out. Those are some of my, as you say, draft crushes. I got more, but those are some of them. Lyle Bolliard, 49ers need to get back to old school smash mouth defense football. Well, they just got to get healthy. And they gotta stop thinking that Bosa is going to be Bosa, that Warner's going to be Warner, that Trent's going to be Trent, that CMC is going to be CMC. It's fine to have these guys on the team. Just stop pretending that those guys are the best at their position and that they're going to elevate the entire team by themselves. They're now in an age in their football career where they can contribute, but they can't necessarily carry the whole team. And I hope Niners realize that. I hope they realize that. James Mockestad, Larry, with the Heat. Thanks for calling out Demo. Hated that. Hated Debo yapping a few years ago, too. I love Demo, but come on, bro. I don't pull punches, and I speak the truth. And yet, you know what? I understand who Demo is, and that corners need to have that ultimate confidence. So I'm always willing to give corners a little bit more, leeway when it comes to commentary. But dude, the game's over. Credit your opponent. Be gracious in defeat. No, you were not, you got to know what the score was. You didn't lose 17-13. You got your doors blown off. And there's a gigantic sign in the locker room that says no fucking excuses. Listen to your own edict. You only have like 2 team rules. That's one of them. Let's try to follow it. San Fran Trader, respect to you for your coverage. You're the best, in my opinion, because you don't get into arguing with viewers about your takes, nor do you talk shit about other commentators. No, there's no reason to. You stick to what we care about, which is football, the game. Thank you, man. First of all, let me just say this about all the people that do what we do. If you're I don't want to say courageous, that's the wrong word, but if you've got enough gumption to put yourself out there to be judged by others, that's I tip my cap to you. I tip my cap to you. And not everybody does, but if I'm not the one thing I will never say, and it makes me anytime I'm on with anybody who says this, I just absolutely cringe and would like to eject myself from the live stream. Anybody who's like, you need to listen to us and not blankety blank. I'm like, oh God, I don't want to hear that. If you're really good, then guess what? You can just be. You don't go into your favorite restaurant. You don't hear them say, hey, you know what? Our restaurant's so much better than this place and that place and this place and that place. No, they just cook, you eat, and you make that determination. So, yeah, I do not rock with, listen to me over somebody else. And, the bottom line is I work hard to be right and I work hard to have the right answers. But I've had things that I've said that are just pure idiocy, that are just totally fucking wrong, where I'm just absolutely dead ass wrong. And then I've had things that I've said that are fucking genius and that other people should copy and whatever. But I'm not so arrogant to think that everything that comes out of this freaking pie hole is somehow genius. We win, we lose, we hit some, we miss some, When anybody who listened to me on KMBR for all those years, I used to sign off my show with, and remember, Larry Krueger, often wrong, seldom in doubt. And so I'm gonna have an answer if you have a question, but I'm not always right. Not always right. In fact, I'm wrong a lot. Harry Johnson, nobody swarms to the ball anymore, slow and weak. Yeah. I mean, you know what was the most frustrating part of watching the Niners in the last 5 or 6 games is that Collins and West would do their part. They'd come out of their stance. They would stay, keep their gap integrity, and the running back would come charging up and then jump stop, be halted right there in the hole. But he's standing behind the line. And 1,000, 1,000. Where's the cavalry to come and bring that guy to the ground? I can't tell you the number of times that West and Collins closed down their gaps, basically told the runner, you wanted to run through the B gap, you're not running through the B gap. And then that runner pivots, stops, and is looking for a new hole. Well, your defense has got to swarm and close down that space. And the Niners frequently did not and allowed that runner to assess the hole, find the new hole, get into it, and get some positive yards. And so I kind of feel like I really like what I saw from West and from Collins, but they're occupiers. You got to have the runaround guys who make all the tackles. And the Niners ran out of linebackers. And it's amazing because they used to have Fred and Greenlaw and Aziz and just guys just left and right. And now they're signing guys like Garrett Wallow off Denver's practice squad. And it's just, they have regressed. They've gone from the best linebacking core in football to, without Fred Warner, the worst. Why don't we start right fucking there in rebuilding this thing? Start right fucking there. You had the best linebacking core. Build that again. You have the worst right now. Cryptic. I'm optimistic because when you look at the NFC West, I still trust Purdy as a long-term quarterback over Darnold, Brissett, Stafford closer to the end, and who's next? Yeah. The one advantage that the Niners have on these other teams is they have Shanahan and Purdy. They also have some electrical station that may impact whether free agents will sign here. That's got to be worked out. But yeah, they've got Purdy. They're set at quarterback. That's the most important spot. Armchair analyst. Linebackers were bad, but their angles were made worse by putrid edge setting on the D line. Also, the O line is mid, but watch CMC try and hit a hole. Oh, I know. The offensive line needs a great player. That's really more than, if you're the 49ers, you don't need just players. You have players. You need great players. Show me a great defensive lineman, a great offensive lineman, a number one corner. When was the last time the Niners had a true number one corner? They need some great players. Diana says the Seahawks defense generated pressures on 47.4% of Brock's dropbacks, the highest pressure rate of any game in the NFL this entire season. Dude, they smoked him, man. They hit him at the beginning. They hit him at the end. Yeah. I mean, he's courageous, man. He stood there and he took it. But, yeah, that line needs to be upgraded. Armchair analyst says, watch Jordan James loaf on the kickoff return. I'll look for it. Haven't done my film review yet. Just got back in time to. I took a 6:18 flight. Didn't sleep at all. Basically, just hung out today, watch football. But I'll be back up to speed by tomorrow. San Fran, you think Pats minus 5.5 is a trap or free money? Ha ha. I like the Pats. Denver's got a good D, but I like the Pats. We got this one. Harry Johnson, Elliott, Davis, Yatir, Pinnock, Robinson got to go. Gizmo Maltese is DJ West. DJ is CJ West better than Alfred Collins? They're very similar. I do think CJ West is a little bit better than Alfred Collins. I think he's got but I think I like them both. I really do. I think they're good. They're two good interior run stuffing players. I think CJ West has some upside as a potential rusher that Collins I don't think has. But I think they're both good. I really do. I think they hit on both those guys. Heated Heavy says, Tongas on the interceptions doesn't seem like he fights for the ball, not just the Seattle game, but the Philly game as well. That might be a little bit of receiver 2.0. Let's give him some time to kind of. I didn't notice that, but it's something I'll look for. 88 Pope or 88 Pops. I don't think it's the training staff or even the power plant. I think it could be Kyle running these guys into the ground in practices and games and not using your young talent enough. Okay. Kyle Bolyard. That's why Bill Walsh was a great coach. It was about the team, not buddy. Brucer. Should Niners trade up for Caleb Downs in the first round? Wow. Great safety, Ohio State. Probably one of the safest picks in the draft. He's going to go top 5. I don't think they can. All I'll say about the Niners is no shortcuts. Don't trade up for one guy. Draft 2 guys and take multiple bites of the apple. Look when they try to pour lots of assets into one. Trey Lance, bomb. Javon Hargrave, bomb. No more all our assets for one great asset. Nope. If anything, I'd rather trade down. I'd rather wind up with 5 or 6 more bites of the apple on day 3. That's what I'd like. PWS West Coast. LOL, Krug. Here's proof we love you. Thank you, bro. Appreciate you, bro. 49er fisherman. Sean Payton eats lemons. Look at his face, Krug. Ha. Yeah, I mean, that was just wrong, dude. It's like we have all these people who are like, oh, don't bully people. If you said, saying to describe yourself as a bully is like there's only like 2 or 3 things that are like worse than a bully in our modern day, verbiage. And this guy openly bullied a media person that he doesn't know at all, probably, and he has no idea. I wish he had said that to me. I'd say, I know all about running the ball downhill. You want to talk football? Let's talk football. He doesn't, maybe he felt like that guy didn't know anything, but don't bully people, dude. Who the fuck are you? You're some fucking dumbass football coach. You probably got a dip in your back pocket right now. You're going to lecture people on intellect? Aztec. Tomorrow, Larry says this stream was AI. Hacked. I own everything. Armchair analyst. I needed this. Thank you, Larry. Preach, brother. Yeah, Kev said, why don't you go on for an hour? We're 2 hours and 14 minutes in. But we're almost done. We want the real JJ, a.k.a. Justin Jefferson, hashtag wide receiver one. Okay, but once again, you're talking about a bunch of assets for one asset. Always makes me nervous in a sport like football. What happens if you pour 5 assets into one asset and your one asset gets hurt in week 1? It's the fastest way to wind up with a disaster year. 49er fisherman Alec Pierce for $8 million a year. Fast, can stretch the D, big, tough, and available. I like that. I like Pierce. Some good numbers attached to him as well. 49er fisherman Krug. Why can't YGM? Why can't he stay healthy? Hasn't been able to stay healthy going back to Penn State. Seriously, he's always had the people would dream in the YGM dream forever. He actually had a good year this year when he was healthy. Armchair analyst says he became a YouTube member. I always give a little clap for our newest YouTube members. Welcome aboard, Armchair. Wes Jameson. What's up, Wes? He says, I would like to hear your take on special teams. It felt to me like they were a bend but don't break group, similar to the defense. Well, first of all, I liked what they did this year. They finally said, we're so tired of being shitty on special teams. Let's go get a good special teams unit and our coordinator, and let's put some money behind it, put some assets behind it. But they did too much. They overdid it. You don't need Curtis Robinson and Luke Gifford and Garrett Wallow. You need one guy like that and 2 guys that can play from scrimmage. They had 3 special teams linebackers. The Junior Bergen pick, that was totally crazy. That was a terrible pick. I watched that guy for 2 practices and said, this is not an NFL athlete. And yet he's still on the team. So, I'm glad that they committed to improving their special teams. I think it was upgraded. It was really hard to watch them implode with the 95-yarder to Rashid. I like what Boyer brings to the table, but stop listening to Boyer. And I asked Boyer a basic question early, and he got pissed. I said, how many promises or assurances did they give you to come here? And he's like, I wasn't given any assurances. Really? Well, then you sure fucking are lucky, because every single, Saron Neal, $2.25 million, he's here. Luke Gifford, he's here. They went for special teamers in the draft, special teamers in free agency. They devoted. It's like, if you didn't demand any assurances, then you're just the luckiest guy of all time, because you showed up and they started investing in special teams like they never have before. But ultimately, I think it was a very good improvement for special teams across the board. They also got lucky. Let's be honest. If they really knew, these football coaches that we defer to at all times, oh my God, these people know football on a level that we could, us fans and media people, we're not on their level. Really, if you fucking knew special teams so well, why did you start with Jake Moody and go into the regular season with Eddie Pinheiro on the street? If you really knew special teams like the back of your hand, then why did you open the year with Jake Moody and then went to your kicker who made 26 in a row? The reality is they don't know. It's guesswork. It's people evaluating people. It's rife with issues and mistakes. I like their upgrades this year, but they went too far. They went too far in giving the special team. They ran out of linebackers. You can't have 3 special teams linebackers and have nobody who can make plays from scrimmage. Are you kidding me? That was crazy. That's what happened this year. 49er fisherman. F you, Larry. Absolutely love your rant. 100% on point. And will the Niners listen? I don't know. Don't know. All right. A couple more, then we're out. Niner forever. We are sadly like the Bills, always close, but not winning the big one. Time for a reset. We are on year 10 and no rings. Okay, a reset. That's fine, but don't tell me you're going to dump Shanahan right now. I mean, I can't endorse that. I can see the reset. But I mean, they've gotten close. Have they climbed to the top of the mountaintop? Not yet. Gensis lady says Niners signed BA instead of All-Pro Huff. Yeah, that was a mistake. Huff made every play for Denver yesterday. Niner forever. Imagine if Jimmy G wins on Levi's, an FU to Kyle. Oh, God, yeah, Jimmy G could win the Super Bowl with the Rams as a backup. Forgot about that. Okay, a couple more. TFS, Niners Forever is really not a Niner fan. Okay. I hear you. Aztec, who slipped sodium pentothal in your cough medicine? I'd mostly beaten this cold until I sat down today. And then all of a sudden I'm starting to get a little stuffed up. Kalba says, Larry, thanks for the great coverage this season. I look forward to the offseason, college player evals, and mock drafts. Go Niners. 49er Fisherman, Lair, if our front office had your passion, maybe we'd have our sixth ring. Yeah, I do think that my passion, I mean, I don't hate anybody. I just want to win. And I want to do it before I die. And I'd like to give my kids who are 19, 15, the enjoyment that I had watching the Niners win a championship. Sometimes I wonder if we're going to ever get to that day. Sometimes it seems like they're close, and then they just don't get there. Niner forever. Says TFS 7281 found Jed York's burner. LOL. VW 2430. Nobody's talking about losing Saleh next year. I think it's a fait accompli at this point. Villaroo says, Larry, thanks for being a voice of reason and wanting a standard for this team. I'll happily scout for free if I could NGL. Let's reload and do this right next season. Still want to see Watkins ball. That's another guy. I'm absolutely confident that Watkins is a player. Absolutely confident. I put my name to it. And yet he couldn't get on the field this year. Very frustrating. And they had no speed. And I think he would have helped. Very frustrating. Boxing fan times 4. 49ers spent around $40 million in free agency and trades, but spent over 115 million euros this offseason on Leeds United and 38 million euros on the Rangers. What the fuck, Jed? Well, not only that, the Niners had more dead cap than almost every team in pro football except for like the Raiders. Niners had like over $102 million in dead cap this year. They still found a way to win 12 games. Imagine if they, in a lot of ways, I hate to say it, Dieter was saying, oh, it's all about 26. It wasn't all about 26. That was not a correct take, but they definitely didn't spend every penny they could on 25. That's for sure. And they didn't do anything at the trade deadline that would really, that really rocked anybody's world by any stretch. Rocket Bear says trade up for Caleb Downs, all-star talent on D. I mean, there's no question he's a star. You wouldn't be disappointed with Caleb Downs. He's a great, great player. The question is, do you want to spend that much to get that high to pick a safety? I mean, if he's Ronnie Lott, yes, but if it's anything short of that, no. Yay area. Thoughts on defensive tackle Aaron Graves from Iowa? I'll have to study him more. I do watch Iowa quite a bit. I like Iowa. I like Jennings Dunker, the big offensive tackle from Iowa. I'll have to check him out, though. I haven't seen him enough to give you a good idea. Vin win. Don't matter. You spend $100 million on a receiver or a tight end when your quarterback ran for his life and gets killed before getting the ball out. This O-line can't neither protect Brock nor open a lane for CMC. Yeah, the O-line needs to be upgraded. No doubt about that. O-line. Anthony Catania is in the house from Sharp Corners, Sports Cards and Collectibles. We need speed. Time to get faster, younger, and stronger. I agree. PWS West Coast, what positions are you using free agency to fill and what positions are you using the draft to fill? Well, you know what? There's a lot of evaluation that has to happen. I want to see all the prospects. I'll be studying pretty much exclusively between now and April. But I don't love the draft tight ends that I've seen, and I do love Kyle Pitts and what I think he can be in this offense. I also love Isaiah Likely, and I would go tight end in the draft or in the free agent market, and I would go, some of the other spots in the draft, but I kind of like the free agent market for the tight end spot. Aunt Martin says, sign Pitts and trade for Jefferson. Thanks for the content. Appreciate you. Niner Mafia, free agency, free agency, free agency. Also, I will lose my shit if they draft a wide receiver and he sits all year. Oh, I know. My God. So what a disconnect. What a tale my thoughts will tell. You're right. Honesty, vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness. Listen to your KMBR sports program for years. Noted it in my published book. Wow. I got a mention in your book? You might have to send me that book. I have to check that out. THS, me too. Let's go Niners. Just a me too. I'm not sure exactly what he was me tooing. But, all right. Well, guys, that's going to do it. Thanks for the 57 chats. 2 hours and 24 minutes. Long time. Let me see if I can find another non-super we can read here before we get out of here. Oh, wait, we got another super here. Bring Dobbs to San Francisco. Great wide receiver. Yeah, Romeo Dobbs, I think, would be a really nice fit. And he went to Reno. He went to Nevada, Reno. So maybe he would be open-minded to being out here on the West Coast. We got this one. LUL Easy. What's up, Larry? I think the Niners need to trade for A.J. Brown. Oh, my God. I don't know about that. We got this one from Frankie. Let's go Hoosiers. Where's he ever Damon is right now in Miami? That's right. Damon's in Miami getting ready for more Hoosier ball. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Sleeper. Excuse me, I'm coughing up a storm here. But also thanks to Habbas Law. Big fans of Habbas Law. They will fight to make it right. Habbas Law, great sponsor of the Krug Show. We really appreciate them. And there we go. Let me take that one comment down. 1-800-INJURED. HabbasLaw.com on the web. They will fight to make it right. If you need a good lawyer, call Habbas Law, 1-800-INJURED. I love those guys. They're fantastic. That is going to do it for us. One last comment. Short yardage concerns need to be addressed. Yeah, no doubt. A lot of concerns, a lot more to get to. We'll have more. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man.